to shop, but also to tip. Not everyone knows the rules to the game, though.
There's a fine line here. In today's Consumer Tuesday segment, Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University is here with us to answer some big questions about tipping. And good morning, first of all. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Off the top, we always struggle with this out of my house. Who do you tip? How do you know who to tip?
Well, what the purpose of tipping is, you're trying to thank all the people who have served you all throughout the year, whether it's one of your children's teachers or someone who's cleaning your house or someone who's walking your dog. And so basically, if you're in doubt about someone you should tip, I would say you probably would want to do that. And it depends how much you tip on your relationship with them. How long have you known them? How important is their service to you? How important is you being satisfied? And you don't want to really go over budget, but you really want to thank people who have really helped you throughout the year.
All right, Audrey, let's talk for all the ladies out there that stick with the same hairdresser, the same manicurist, the same pedicurist. Those are people you see relatively often throughout the year. How much do you do for them? Do you do, what you would normally tip times two? How does that work?
Well, the basic rule, Sunny, is you want to tip them one visit. So if it's one haircut or maybe one manicure, if it's someone who's cleaning your house, you want to tip them for a week's, or one particular visit, one service. So the bottom line is typically you want to tip them about one time what they're actually providing you for one visit. So that's a nice rule. For a lot of people, they may not be able to afford that. And a lot of times they also recommend, in addition to you giving them, let's say, the money for one visit, you also should give them a small gift, token gift as well.
Okay, so let's get this clear. If you're paying 150 bucks for your hair, you give them 150 bucks too?
That's what they're saying.
Okay.
That's what they are recommending, absolutely.
Holidays just got really, really expensive.
They really did.
Now, answer, you gotta settle the argument. Who's a better tipper, men or women?
Oh, I hate to say this, Sunny, it is men who are better tippers, and older people tend to be better tippers as well. But the bottom line is, if you can't afford the $150 or you can't afford the full visit, at least give some kind of gift of appreciation. That's the point. Cash is typically the best thing you want to give, as well as maybe gift cards. If you're giving a present for your child's teachers, you want to make sure you check the school policy, because a lot of times there are rules and regulations as to how much and what you can give. And also you want to be very careful if you're giving to your mail carrier. They're only allowed to get gifts $20 or under. So if someone who's providing us with a public service, we have to be careful about that as well.
All right, very well. Dr. Audrey Gusky,
and I just wanted to say I feel very honored to be with you two dancers here. I watched you Pittsburgh dance with the stars.
Don't bring that back.
These were the two stars.
We didn't get to see you. Thanks for going, though.
Oh, it was fun.
Who'd you vote for?
I can't say, but she's sitting next to you.
Oh, Audrey.
That's
thanks.
okay.
I'm sure that was only because I paid her to say it. I tipped her to say it.
You tipped her to say it.
I did. Before I had the envelope with the cash sitting right there.
That's okay. Dr. Gusky, my score was higher anyhow.
He's got to have a consolation prize. Anyhow, we want to remind you, Audrey is here every Tuesday with the latest in consumer news. It's that Consumer Tuesday segment every Tuesday morning right here on the KDKA TV Morning News on Pittsburgh CW.
Here with some tips on tipping. Good morning,
Audrey.
Christine. Well, it is time to start thinking about this, because 3 weeks from today is Christmas already.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
It is.
And, we try to be generous, as you said, and really thank the people who have been helping us throughout the year, whether it's someone who's babysitting our children or cutting our grass or cutting our hair. And so, people always want to know how much.
Yes.
And I guess I always say, when in doubt, tip. You should always tip people, because it helps you build a relationship. It helps get better satisfaction throughout the year, and it really lets people know that you appreciate all that they've done.
Can you do a gift instead of a tip, or when is one better than the other?
It depends. Basically, my advice is usually cash or gift cards are the best thing. You have to be careful with cash, because that could be taxed, and so a gift card is maybe the safer way to go. You could give gifts. You have to be very, very careful if it's someone like a receptionist or a secretary or someone who you're not that close to in a relationship. You don't want to give them anything too personal, such as a perfume or clothing or something like that. So when in doubt, I would say cash or gift cards are probably the best way to go.
And people always like cash, because you can get whatever you like.
Oh, absolutely. It spends very well and very easily.
Okay, so how much do we give to different kinds of service people?
Well, the rule is typically one visit or one time you're going to either their hair salon or getting your nails done, or one visit someone has in your home cleaning your house or walking the dog. So that's typically the rule. Of course, it could get pricey if you're looking at a hairdresser that you're paying maybe over $100.
Sure.
But that's typically what people are recommending as far as gifts.
And I often hear you're not supposed to tip your postal employee, but we love our post office woman. She's so sweet.
Well, you should tip, but the rule is, the law is, you're not allowed to give them anything over $20.
Okay, so you can give them $20.
So you can give them 20 and a gift card, gift certificate, or even a box of candy. That's very appropriate. You should also be careful with teachers, because a lot of times schools have regulations and requirements as to what's allowed and what's not allowed in a school. So before you go out and buy the gifts, you may want to check for the teachers as well.
Great. And who are the better tippers, men or women?
Well, men tend to be the better tippers, believe it or not, and older people tend to be. My students did some studies a few years ago and found that men tip significantly more than women, as well as older people. And one thing too, if you're not satisfied with the service over the year, you don't want to give coal to anybody. So you don't want to, in a sense, give them something that's nasty. So you either don't give them a gift or give them something very small, or a token gift as well. But the point is, with all these gifts and these tips, is to really thank people throughout the years and let them know that you appreciate what they're doing. This is a nice time of the year to do that. And gift cards, of course, is always the best way to go. One size fits all, easy to wrap.
And a personal note always means a lot too.
You're exactly right. You really want to include the personal note, because a lot of times that warms their heart and that lets them know that you really have just enjoyed all the services that they've given them.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you, Christine.
And all right, speaking of shopping, we actually have just about 2 weeks until Christmas Day, so of course the shopping days are dwindling. Keith, be warned.
Naturally, many of us are nowhere done. Many of us are nowhere near started. Here to give us some last-minute tips on gift giving is Dr. Audrey Gusky with Consumer Tuesday. Good morning.
Good morning, Keith. Hi, Sunny.
All right, the basic advice. What can we do? What can you do to give us here to help us ease the stress of the shopping?
Well, it is very stressful. Obviously, we have 14 days exactly as of today, and so a lot of people have not started shopping. About 25% of us haven't really done anything yet. And so I would say don't panic. Still plenty of time and plenty of opportunities, but you have to be very, very careful. You want to shop at off times, obviously. You don't want to go during a weekend or a very busy prime time because it'll be very difficult. Just like Santa, I'd say make a list, check it twice. You really want to make sure that you know what you're getting. You don't want to go out there and wander around. You don't have an awful lot of time. I would check flyers. I would check online as far as prices and discounts and sales that are offered as well. So there is still some time, but I would say get out there as soon as you can. Remember, the inventories were very short this year, so you may have to settle for certain things and not necessarily get what you exactly wanted.
Will those sales, Audrey, carry over right through? We know what they started with Black Friday. Do they continue right through the actual Christmas Day?
There are, Sunny. There are still some sales, which is great, but keep in mind, as we said, the inventory is being limited. There aren't as many as there were in past years. So if people are looking to save a tremendous amount of money, I would probably say that's not going to happen at this point in time.
And you mentioned online, Dr. Gusky. For guys like me who hate going to the mall, hate going to the crowds.
You
do? I get chest pains. I do. Online, we were saying earlier this month and last month that you can find actually bigger deals online. Is that true?
That's exactly true. Online shopping has been exploding. We've talked the fact that Christmas sales are going to be rather slow, 2 to 3% this year. Online sales are increasing by almost 30%, huge. So there's still a chance. I'd say do it very, very quickly because you're running out of time as far as delivery. But the delivery costs a lot of times are free, and there's a lot of bargains and sales, and in a sense, e-coupons too. So that's definitely the way to shop for those of you who don't want to go to the malls and fight the crowds.
Audrey, let's talk about the person that seems to have everything. There's always the challenge, that one person on the list or someone that you think, what do they need? What do they want? Well, you put a list of the type of gifts you buy and what it says about the type of person you are?
Yeah, exactly. It depends upon what you buy. It's going to really tell your personality, you as a gift giver. So there's the gift mavens, who are the ones that tend to feel their gift is the best of all times, and they spend a lot of time and effort, shop all year long. They're probably shopping the day after Christmas for next year. You've then got the thoughtful giver, who tends to, as we've said, put a lot of thought into it, thinks of the individual, very personalized. Gifts are very, very important to them, but they don't want a practical gift. They want to give something from the heart and something that this person that they're giving it to would never buy. And then, of course, we have the practical giver, the person who's going to be giving you toasters or electronic things.
Oh, I hate that gift.
Which is typically men. And then finally, we have the obligatory giver, which is the last category, and the people who are buying only because they have to, only out of requirement.
One of those givers more important than the other?
Well, we always like to receive gifts from the mavens because they give us the best gifts, or the thoughtful givers. But a gift is a gift, and it's a holiday season, and it's a way to express our love and care about other people, and that's what matters.
Well, we are going to be, at least I can speak for myself here, hard at work over the next couple of weeks trying to get those gifts bought.
And Sonny, I have to confess, I have barely started, so I'm in with there too.
Thanks, Audrey. Yeah, there's not that much time left, and with the holiday crunch on, everybody could use a little bit of advice. So here to give us some last-minute tips.
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
I wasn't looking at you, just a little friendly glance.
Okay, very good.
But here to give us some tips on gift giving is Dr. Audrey Gusky. She's here with Consumer Tuesday. Dr. Gusky, every year we say we're not going to wait until the last minute to do our shopping, but people like Keith always do. So why is it that we procrastinate?
We do procrastinate, Allison, and what's funny is this year we procrastinated more than ever. And the funny thing about that is we had more shopping days between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so about 20% of all shoppers have not started yet. They've actually waited till the last minute. The busiest shopping days of the year will be this weekend. We're expecting about 25% of all Christmas sales to happen in the next couple of days. So it's going to be very busy out there in the malls.
Now, Dr. Audrey, I am a self-proclaimed procrastinator, and I think I put it off just because I hate the malls. I get rashes when I go near them. Is it guys like me, or who are these last-minute shoppers?
Keith, I was going to say it is usually guys like you.
Yeah, okay.
Basically, it's a lot of men who are waiting to the last minute for the various reasons. They've been too busy. They don't really like to be in the malls. They procrastinate because they just don't want to do it, or various other reasons. And the fortunate thing for all of us, and I too am a procrastinator, the fortunate thing for us is there's still a lot of sales and bargains and merchandise out there. And I had predicted a couple weeks ago that the inventories are low and it might get tough at this time of the year. But that's not the case. There's lots of fun things to buy. And so even though we're running out of time, about a week to go as of today, but there's still a lot of great bargains to have and lots of sales to find.
Dr. Gusky, we talked with you around, I guess it was around Black Friday, about how it was going to look for the retailers. And there was some concern that it wasn't going to be such a good season for them. Are things a little merrier?
No, Allison, unfortunately, they're not. The predictions from the National Retail Federation were that it was going to be about 4%. And when we had talked, I said that I don't think it's even going to be that high for the various reasons. The gas prices have been out of control. Housing is an issue. The sales haven't been strong in October or November. And so you add all of those together, and it's been very gloomy and very ho-hum for retailers, and that's going to continue. They're really hoping to have a huge push at the last minute, but I don't know if they can really make up all of the days and all of the sales that they missed over these past couple of weeks.
Right, and some of the push, we understand, some of the stores are opening 24 hours, so there's really no excuse for folks like me to not be able to find time. Do you have some advice for the last-minute shoppers?
Absolutely. My advice, just like Santa, is make your list and check it twice, Keith. Go out there, have some kind of a game plan. Don't just wander around the malls because you won't get it done. You have to know what you need, about how much you want to spend for everyone, and who exactly you need to buy for. I would say go online and check out all the different stores and the bargains they have. Check the Sunday inserts, the flyers as well, so that way you can see where some of the bargains, where you want to go. So you don't want to just go in there blindly. You really want to have some kind of an idea as to what stores you want to go to and what types of things you want to buy. My advice to last-minute shoppers is always be very careful. Don't overspend at this point, because a lot of people who have been shopping have put things in the attic, forgotten about it, and you may then overspend. And come January and February, you don't want those bills catching up with you.
Yeah, I'm a wanderer, and you just described me to a T. I end up getting to the mall and spending a heck of a lot more than I intended to. So
yeah, well, be careful with that, Keith.
Yeah, okay. I'm one of them. Dr. Audrey, thanks very much.
Happy
Great
shopping,
advice as
everyone.
always.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays to you.
You too.
Thank you.
It's over and done with. Many of us thought that our shopping was over for the rest of the year, but the day after Christmas is one of the busiest shopping days.
Yeah, we saw it here. The Macy's at Ross Park opened at 6. People already there. Now, traditionally, customers will be looking to return and exchange, but also to get those deals. Here with us is Dr. Audrey Gusky with a very special Wednesday version of Consumer Tuesday, obviously. Yesterday, Audrey, wouldn't be applicable for those
No, it wouldn't
post-holiday deals. But thanks for being here, and tell us what we can expect if we head out to the stores or malls today.
Well, typically before Christmas, I said to shoppers, make a list, check it twice, make sure you know what you want specifically. But today, I would say it's a free-for-all. Go out there and enjoy yourselves. There's tons of bargains, tons of sales to be had by shoppers. And typically, this is the traditional return day. I would probably advise shoppers, if you don't have to return your things today, don't. The line's going to be very long. Go out there and spend some more money and use some of those gift cards that you got over the holidays.
All right. Are these typically clearance type sales, and what can consumers expect?
Well, because the holiday season was very weak, we only had sales of about 3.6%, which is on the very, very weak side. Retailers are stuck with tons of merchandise and tons of inventory. And so for shoppers, particularly women's clothing will be strong. All kinds of Christmas items, Christmas cards, Christmas decorations, gift wrap will be very strong as well. There's still a lot of electronics out there. And so I would say definitely go out there, see what the bargains are, lots of sales, look in the papers for some of the coupons that they have as well.
All right, let's talk about, Audrey, what sometimes is a touchy subject, regifting. It's also like the plot line on tons of sitcoms on some episodes. But what do you think about it? Is it okay?
Well, they've done a lot of studies and found about over 80% of us get gifts that we don't necessarily want or need. And so half of us feel very comfortable in regifting. And a lot of times today it is positioned and phrased as it's recycling. So it's very trendy and very in. It's something that's very acceptable for most people. It does still feel awkward, and my advice always is make sure you remember who gave it to you so you don't regift it to them back next year.
Yeah, that would be bad.
That would be real bad.
Whoops. Real quickly, let's talk about gift cards. Today, and even the weeks after Christmas, it's got to be a great time to use this, because that almost doubles your money if you see these huge sales.
Oh, Keith, it really does. You know, typically a gift card is a nice gift to begin with, but this year it's even better, because what we found, as you said, with all the sales and bargains and discounts, shoppers can really be a Santa today and go out and enjoy themselves and spend a tremendous amount of money. Keep in mind, for retailers, gift cards don't count until we actually redeem them. So that's one reason why retailers are attempting to encourage us to get into the stores, because they want these sales to count for 2007. And what we found over the past couple years is January, in a sense, is becoming the new December, because people are spending so much in January, which was typically a very slow month. So for retailers, they're spreading the holiday season quite a bit this year.
Audrey, let's talk about items that won't necessarily go on sale after Christmas. Maybe some electronics or some in-demand items. Anything you can think of that won't necessarily be a deal today?
Well, Sunny, because electronics was somewhat strong, as well as luxury items was strong. So I would say very expensive jewelry and very expensive luxury types of items probably are not going to be discounted, as well as maybe GPS systems, and the Wii, if you can find it, of course, would not be discounted either.
All right, so any advice for guys like me who don't like the malls and to begin with? Are there still the online deals out there, or have they kind of subsided because everybody's headed back to the malls?
Well, online shopping traditionally over the next couple of days has taken a back seat. People aren't going to be spending as much because they actually want to go into the stores and see what kind of merchandise and clearance things are there. There will be some sales for you, Keith, and so you would be able to shop online and get some discounts. But I think the real big bargains that they had before the holiday season and the free shipping is probably not going to be, you know, an option for us as shoppers. Online shopping did extremely well, as we said. Luxury items did extremely well, and some electronics. And so the holiday season, we still spent $475 billion, which is quite a chunk of change for retailers. So I would say they're somewhat merry, but as I had predicted on your show just a few weeks ago, the sales were not what the National Retail Federation predicted. They were looking at 5%, and I was predicting 2%, and we got to about 3%. So it was very fair for retailers.
Even with that late surge, and you talked about this, that the last week leading up to it, even the last couple of days, they even had these extended hours and bigger discounts at the stores. That didn't help? No,
and Keith, what's really interesting is we had the longest time between Christmas and Thanksgiving number of days that you could possibly have. Black Friday was huge with 8% sales, increase in sales, and this past weekend was phenomenal. Some stores getting 15 and 20% increase over last year. It was phenomenal.
Still didn't hit it.
And it still didn't hit the mark because consumers just had not shopped over these past couple of weeks, and unfortunately, you can't make it up in 2 days.
All right.
Happy shopping to everyone out there, because I know people have been up since 6.
I'll be there after
I'll see you there, Sonny.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
A little lightheaded.
Yeah, really.
All right. Dr. Gusky, thanks very much. And for more on today's bargains, mall hours, and more, you can log on to KDK.com. Remember, Dr. Audrey is with us every Tuesday on the Pittsburgh CW for the latest in consumer news.
Tons of merchandise and lots of clearance items, so I would say
We're
definitely.
Talking good stuff.
Good stuff, good sales. Okay. Absolutely great bargains. So, and as some of the shoppers were saying on the segment, not only are they on sale, but then you can get discounts on top of discounts and use coupons. So I would say yes, there are tons of fun sales.
Great. Now, what kinds of things are we talking about in terms of discounts? We're talking electronics, we're talking clothing, or everything?
We're mainly talking clothing, particularly women's apparel, because that was very, very weak this year. Men's clothing wasn't as weak, but it was still an issue. Electronics was pretty strong, but there's still some bargains there. And of course, you've got the traditional Christmas cards, Christmas gift wrap, on all those types of things that you can get half price or 75% off today.
One of my favorite places for gift wrap and ornaments is in Shadyside. There's probably a line outside this morning on Walnut Street.
There probably is, yeah. But you still have to think that consumers have spent $475 billion, which is quite a chunk of change for retailers. And what's interesting is the National Retail Federation predicted 4.5% increase over last year. That didn't happen. And if you read the Post-Gazette today, the headline, front page, was 3.6% increase over last year. But if you read the fine print and you look, if you take out all the high gas prices, which is adding a significant amount to that bottom line, you only have a 2.4% increase. I'm excited because that's exactly what I had predicted this year, that sales were going to increase about 2 to 3%. So we're right on the mark for that. Once again, typically retailers are getting 5 to 6%. Last year was almost 7. The year before that was close to 9. So you can, if you compare that, you can see that sales were very, very slow and very weak this year.
So when people get up and go out this morning, what should they not expect to see on sale?
Well, probably the things that were very difficult to find, like the Wii and maybe some HD TVs and a lot of the big electronics things. But keep in mind, there are going to be some electronics on sale. I would say before Christmas, I always advise shoppers, like Santa, make a list and check it twice. Today, I say go out there. It's a free-for-all. Just take a look at what the sales and bargains are. And if you really have no game plan and just no prices and no merchandise and sort of know what would be nice for you to have or to buy for someone that you love, then I would say enjoy yourself, because lots of fun, lots of sales out there.
And those who did buy before Christmas, what were consumers spending their money on?
Well, gift cards was a big thing. That's one thing that we should address today, because the issue is typically for retailers, the cost, the amount of money people spend for a gift card isn't actually counted until it's been redeemed.
Until they use the card.
And the beautiful thing this holiday season, Brenda, is because there's so many sales, if you got a gift card for $25, you could maybe double the value in it.
That's right.
Because you're going to be getting a lot of bargains and things. Returns is also a big thing, as you had mentioned in the previous segment. Many happy returns. And my advice to shoppers who are out there trying to return is have as much information as you possibly can. Receipts or gift vouchers or something like that, so that way people know the actual value that was spent on them. And if you can avoid returning today, I'd probably wait a couple days, because they're going to be pretty crowded.
A lot of people out there.
Very
now,
busy.
what if you bought something online? How do you return that?
Well, it depends on what store it is.
Actually, if I gave it to you, it's your problem.
For a lot of shoppers, you can take it back to the typical brick and mortar store. A lot of times you can't do that. You have to return it through the mail.
Right.
And sometimes the retailer, the online retailer, will pick up that cost of shipping, and a lot of times they won't. So once again, it just depends on which particular online retailer it is.
And I found out the other day that stores are just doing you a favor by exchanging and returning for you. They don't have to do this legally?
Well, legally they do not. They don't. They don't. There's no real laws or stipulations in Pennsylvania as to the fact that if you buy something, they owe you the full price. But once again, it's customer satisfaction, and so if retailers don't do that, then people won't continue to shop. They'll get bad word of mouth from consumers. So basically, there are certain rules. Typically, if you've got the receipt or you've got a gift voucher, the retailer will give you that full amount either in cash or return it to your credit card account. What happens a lot of times, if it's a smaller retailer, they may only give you store credit. Yeah.
Right.
So I would say, when you're buying things, you should always check into that, because return policies for gifts are a big deal for shoppers.
Okay. Well, a lot of people are losing their homes to foreclosure. Gas prices are really high. Well, those are two main factors as to why people are not buying a lot this Christmas.
Yeah, those were the two big things. With the gas prices high, the housing market, the fact that people are concerned about employment, the toy recall was a big deal. And people hadn't shopped in September or October. Sales had only increased by 2%. People were very conservative throughout 2007 in spending money. And so if you take all those factors into account, and people were going after more of the spiritual family values, and people had cut back. They said they weren't going to spend as much, and they didn't. And so bottom line is retailers still got, as we said, $475 billion. Nice chunk of change, but they didn't get the 5, 6, 7% that they had hoped for. Okay. Keep in mind, there's so many options for shoppers. The online discounters, some of the discounters did very well. Walmart did very well. Saks did very well. So it was like a diamonds and discounts season. Absolutely.
Get out of here.
The very luxury retailers did extremely well, and the very discounted ones, and the ones in the middle, such as the department stores, Macy's and Kohl's and Targets, did not do as well as they had hoped.
Okay. And some of their tactics didn't work. Usually it's Black Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
But this year, didn't they have like Black Wednesday or Tuesday or something to get people out early?
They started to get shoppers out early, and what's very interesting is there was more days between Christmas Christmas and Thanksgiving than we've ever had before, 23 days. And so you would think shoppers would have been shopping all along. Black Friday was incredible. 8% increase in sales. This past weekend was phenomenal, 16% increase. But that didn't do enough to really get retailers over the mark. And keep in mind, it's a make or break season for retailers, December, because they're looking at 20 to 50% of all their profits and sales coming this time of the year. So it's very important. So I would say for shoppers, let's go out there and shop till 2008 because there's going to be lots of sales and bargains.
Are you heading out today?
I'll see you at the stores, Brenda.
You go, girl.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Audrey. All right.
And gets adjusted to 2008. It's always fun to look back on the things that happened in the past year and look ahead in our crystal ball for what's ahead.
And here with us today to analyze the marketplace of 2007 as well as predict what's ahead is Dr. Audrey Guskey of Duquesne University for that Consumer Tuesday segment. Dr. Guskey, good morning.
Good morning.
So what did we see in 2007 that's not going to make it into this new year?
Well, I would say basically it was recall, as well as very high gas prices. That seemed to dictate what was happening. And as far as foreign investment goes, we had Kennywood being bought, Respironics, and the casinos. And so those were a lot of interesting things last year that tended to shape the year 2007.
And of course, some of those will impact the coming year. What do you expect in terms of big marketing trends for this year?
Well, one of the fun things that we're seeing is status spheres. What we found over the past couple years is people are more interested in status types of products and luxury products. We saw that a lot at Christmas. Christmas sales weren't very strong. However, sales were very strong on luxury goods. And so we're going to see more of the upscale types of goods being purchased. Along with that, we have premiumization. We've got customers who are buying products, let's say from a McDonald's or baby food or beer, but they don't want just your typical products. They want more upscale, upgraded types of merchandise. And so we're going to be seeing people who are still value oriented, but yet it's almost like a trade-off. They're saving a lot of money in some ways, and yet they're willing to splurge in certain areas. Women's handbags are a very good example.
Oh, I was just going to say that, Dr. Guskey. You know how women are with their purses, and sometimes, like me, I see them as an investment because they do last. But I mean, that recalls the fact that there's big credit crunch this past year. A lot of problems with major credit card companies upping those interest rates, and people that are buying these that don't have that money on hand sometimes see the problem a few months down the road. The luxury items are popular, but it's a hard thing to get.
That's exactly right. And the economy, if you looked at it over 2007, wasn't extremely strong. And unfortunately, as we're entering 2008, it's going to be the same situation. And so consumers need to be very, very careful because the housing market is still an issue. The job market is still a concern for most people. And so you want to be very, very careful as far as your spending goes. So you may splurge on one particular type of product or product line, but you want to be conservative in a lot of ways as well.
So is that desire for status translating into services as well? Ellen, and are there other services will you expect to see more of in the coming year?
Well, I like to look at the year of 2008 as the year of the consumer experience. Consumers aren't necessarily looking for products anymore. We have too much stuff. So it's going to be an experience economy. So people are going to be buying, as we saw over Christmas, vacations for other people and spa, gift certificates and golf, which you can do today. Opportunities to go golfing. And so I think we're going to keep seeing more and more of that because as an economy, we have pretty much all that our houses and our places can hold. And so we're going to be looking for more experiences. Also regarding services, very neat. We're going to see more flexibility in the services. A lot of times when you're dealing with a service company, you need to sign a contract and it's very long and lengthy. And what we found is a lot of companies such as Cricket are providing consumers a flexibility, an option where you don't necessarily have to sign your life away for 2 years. And I think as consumers, that's one of the things we're really looking for.
And Audrey, let's talk about the housing market. Do you predict any upswing there and any more luck for the people who are trying to sell right now?
Well, we were very fortunate in Pittsburgh because we weren't really stuck as much as other parts of the country. However, the housing market is still very rough, and I would say that it has nowhere to go but up. And so hopefully things will be improving regarding that. But it was very, very rocky in 2007. Pittsburgh, fortunately, was just at the bottom end of it, so we didn't really feel a lot of the pressure and a lot of the economic impact that the other parts of the country had.
And of course, that's impacted the economy as a whole of the country. What do you predict for 2008 just in the economy overall?
Well, I think overall the economy is still going to be very tough. Consumers did not spend in 2007. They're not going to start spending in 2008 because a lot of the economic indicators that we had seen are still going to be very weak. And so what we've got is, I I think toward the end of 2008 things might start picking up. But as far as consumers go, we're still going to be out there spending, and I wish everyone a happy 2008.
The plastic is going to be burning. Dr. Gusky, thank you. And remember, Dr. Audrey Gusky is with us here every Tuesday on the Pittsburgh CW for the latest in consumer news.
Anyhow.
When the forecast indicates that snow is on the way.
And that's the time when everyone is rushing to stock up, right? Cold weather, well, that spells, it also has effects on many other shopping patterns, believe it or not. And here to tell us more about that is consumer guru, if you will, Dr. Audrey Gusky. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Keith. Hi, Sunny.
So how does the weather correlate with shopping or not shopping?
Well, obviously it has a huge effect. I mean, we like to talk about the weather, and it's sort of like the, chit-chat that we do every day with people. But weather really has a huge effect upon consumers, because obviously a day like yesterday, which was Martin Luther King Day, where a lot of the kids were off of school, so they could have gone to the movies or gone shopping with their parents, and they ended up staying home. So it really impacts, and as people staying home, cocooning, and not spending as much money. For an economy that we have that's really tight and really has a lot of problems, that's bad news for everyone.
And Audrey, given the fact that we've had a relatively mild winter, at least until this past week, has that negatively affected grocery stores or any other retail chain so far?
Well, Sunny, it's really affected people who are selling clothing. If you look at Christmas sales were horrendous this year, the worst we've had in about 15 years. One of the reasons, one of the factors is the weather. It was very, very warm. We had unseasonably warm weather, and as a result, people weren't spending money on coats and gloves and jackets and things like that. They were just not spending. And so I think if it would have been a little bit chillier and the weather would have contributed a little bit, maybe people would have spent a little bit more money.
How about gas prices? Let's talk about that. Good news, though, when the futures market opens up today, it should open up roughly $87 a barrel. That's down from $100 a barrel just a couple of weeks ago. But how is this affecting folks?
Yeah, heating fuel is a big issue. First of all, with the gas prices being high, people aren't traveling and shopping as much to begin with. But when the fuel prices start getting high for people, once again, we've been fortunate this winter, and so we haven't had a lot of really cold weather. But when we start to have it, particularly people who are on really tight budgets and people who are just making ends meet, they a lot of times have the option between heating their homes and buying food for their families. Very, very unfortunate. So we always hope for warmer weather just for that situation, so people don't have to spend tremendous amounts of money keeping their homes warm.
And Audrey, Easter's early this year. It's March, in the 20s of March, I forget what, 23rd, I think, this year. That coming early, will that affect chains too, and as far as spring fashion sales are concerned?
Absolutely, Sunny. I think that's bad news once again for retailers, because the season is so early. You can probably predict we're going to have snow on Easter, and so people aren't going to want to, go out and spend for their fashions for the spring, and so they're going to be bundling up in their winter coats still. And so, you just take these little factors which may not seem like a lot, but to consumers, they're not going out as much, spending as much money. They're not going to be spending as much spring money for their clothing and fashions, at least early in March. And so put all this together, and overall, it's just not another good news item for the overall economy.
How about in terms of sales on winter clothes these days?
Oh, well, Keith, that's the great news.
Yeah.
We've got tons of sales because people weren't spending a lot on clothing and a lot of types of merchandise like that over the Christmas holidays. It's really a buyer's market. You can go out there and have fun because there's tons of huge sales, up to 75% off. So I would say, yes, the weather's getting a little bit warmer, as Val said. And so maybe we want to go out in the next couple of days and spend some money in the different retail stores, because there are lots of sales.
Great deals to be had. Dr. Audrey Gusky, thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
We have her on every Tuesday with the latest in consumer news, so stick with us for that. If you get that fix, if you need a fix at about 2:30 in the morning, you can go buy Jim can buy his Patriots gear.
Go buy your Super Bowl 42 golf balls.
His Tom Brady jersey. Such a fan. Okay. All right, there's something else besides merchandise, of course, that has people talking about the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. The commercials here this morning, the commercials, obviously, that's what we're always talking about. And here this morning with a preview of what we can expect. Sunday night is Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University. She's here every Tuesday for Consumer Tuesday. Good morning.
Hi, Keith. Good morning, Sunny.
All right, that's part of the entertainment on Super Bowl Sunday. Are these ads really are they that powerful?
They absolutely are. It's become really the only mass marketing event that we have in the country. You have 100 million eyes, or I should say 200 million, 100 million people actually watching the Super Bowl ads. And marketers are willing to pay 2.7, which if you figure it out, it works out to be about 90 $90,000 per second. Is it worth it? Absolutely, because people talk about it. It's a big media event. It's the biggest Madison Avenue ever. And if you look at the Mean Joe Green commercial, it is the best ad by far that all of America has voted. And you know, it's 28 years old already, from 1980. And so it's absolutely huge and the people's favorite by far across the country.
We had some funny and, well, I don't know if they were controversial, but funny ones last year as well, Audrey, that stuck out. Kevin Federline was a big one that everyone talked about.
Exactly. Kevin Federline, that was very controversial because obviously he leads a very controversial life, as well as the fact that, you know, here's this guy who is this big rock star, supposedly, or trying to be, rapping star, and then he's flipping burgers, and so that wasn't exactly, and a lot of people from the Restaurant Association got upset about that. Snickers also had an interesting, somewhat controversial ad because you had two guys who were accidentally kissing, and then, you know, the gay community got very upset about that, and then General Motors had this suicidal robot, so that obviously had psychiatrists going crazy. That wasn't necessarily in good taste as well.
The Letterman and Oprah one, though, that was relatively controversy-free?
The Dave and Oprah one was a funny one. I think that came as a shock because no one expected that to happen. So that was a cute one, and that tended to work. There's always controversy in Super Bowl ads. There's always people looking for things. They want the humor, they want the fun, they want the excitement, they want animals, they want cute little babies. They want something that's on the edge as well. And I think we've been very, very low-key. The GoDaddy.com has been somewhat on the edge, and they have now a website that they're going to try to pull the audience to go watch that, because that is going to suggest some very interesting things.
All right, let's talk about this year's ads. What can we expect? We know Will Ferrell's in one of them coming up.
Yeah, we've got some good ones coming up. One of the interesting ones that I'm going to be looking for is Pepsi. They've got a 30-second ad, Complete Silence, and that's going after the deaf industry, which I think will be very interesting.
You know what, Audrey, I read an article about that, and apparently it's a well-known joke in the deaf community, and I guess we'll just let the viewers see, but they previewed it in an article, and they're hoping for a good, you know, it'll definitely grab people's attention with that silence.
And it's called Where's Bob, or Where's Bob's House, so keep a lookout for that one. That one.
What's this that we're seeing here?
I'm interested.
We've got a lot of good ones coming up. Doritos, once again, is doing a contest, so I think that'll be very interesting to see who wins that. Last year, remember, they had the best Super Bowl ad place, and so this year they're going to have sort of music to it, so they're going to have a contest for that. It'll always be fun. Super Bowl ads are absolutely super duper this year.
They are. I have no clue what she was selling, but I was intrigued.
Audrey, thank you so much. And a quick reminder, Dr. Gusky is with us every Tuesday for that Consumer Tuesday segment.
Americans didn't open up their wallets during the holiday shopping season, but a new survey shows they're ready to spend billions for the Super Bowl. Consumers are planning to buy nearly 4 million televisions before this Sunday's game, throw in 2 million pieces of furniture, and don't forget the snacks and beer. Altogether, that ups to $9.6 billion in purchases. 158 million people are expected to watch the Patriots take on the Giants. Nearly 47% are actually interested in the game. 36% will tune in to watch the commercials. Well, what will the ads be like this year? Any standouts, any controversies? Dr. Audrey Gusky, marketing professor at Duquesne University, is here with a preview. Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning, Christine. Great to be here. What fun and excitement we have to look forward to with the Super Bowl.
I'm one of those people who likes the commercials more than the game.
Well, if the Steelers aren't playing, of course. What do you do? You're watching the commercials.
Absolutely. All right, so the price tag, first of all, this is always astronomical. How much this year?
$2.7 million for a 30-second ad. If you divide that up per second, you're looking at $90,000 per second. And if you add the production costs, you're at $140,000. People say, is it worth it? Absolutely. You've got every other person in this country watching it. So you've got 200 million eyeballs, 100 million people watching. And so, you know, this is really the only mass marketing event that we have in the entire country, in the entire world. And so marketers who get into this, companies who get into this, it's really worth it because of the visibility, the hype that they get, all the talk before the game, the pregame, and the post-game analysis too. So it's definitely worth that cost.
So I'm sure that a lot goes into making sure these are commercials that people remember, and there are some that people still remember from years and years ago. In fact, maybe we could take a look at some of those. Of course, we just saw the Mean Joe Green one.
Which is the classic, and they've done national polls, and they found every year that this is people's favorite commercial of all time. And so what you've got is, it's, believe it or not, 18 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Or I'm sorry, 28 years old, because it was from 1980.
Yeah,
and
it's the same
Mean
around
Joe
the
Green
70s.
is just, you know, classic. And I think that hits the heart, you know, tugs at the heartstrings. It's dealing with football. It's a cute little fella. It highlights the product. That's what you want in a Super Bowl
We've
ad.
got a nationwide ad, I think, that people will also remember. We can
Yes.
look at this one.
Kevin Federline, making fun in a sense of himself, trying to be this famous rapper. We all know who his ex-girlfriend is. And here he is flipping burgers. And what's interesting is the National Restaurant Association had a bit of controversy regarding that. So, you know,
But it was hilarious.
people like the controversy.
I love
and
that
he
one from last
supposedly
year.
was the most remembered ad from last year.
Yeah.
And so he did get his claim to fame at some point.
Ah, I believe it. Well, anything we should look out for this year? Any big ones that people are expecting?
Well, we've got a lot of celebrity ads coming this year, too. So we've got Will Ferrell coming through. We've got Carmen Electra coming through. And the GoDaddy ads are always going to be fun. And so, you know, they're very controversial as well. You've also got a real interesting one coming up through. And there's, of course, Victoria's Secret, which is their first year on, and people are looking forward to that one. But we've also got Pepsi introducing an ad for the deaf community, and sort of an inside community joke among the people who are hearing impaired. And so you're going to have 30 seconds of silence, which will be very supposedly a nice ad and a beautiful touch to their campaign. Anheuser-Busch, of course, has the most ads. I think they're running about 10 of them. And they always tend to have really interesting, on-the-edge types of ads, and so we can look for those. And you know, USA Today, the day after, they tend to have their poll that suggests which ones are people's favorites and which ones they did not like, so we can look forward to that.
Now, I know in years past they've kind of reached out to people to get their own commercials.
Oh, yes.
Is that happening this year
Doritos
anymore?
is going to do that again.
Okay.
Doritos did that last year. They became famous with that. And everyone probably remembers the girl and the guy. She was walking down the street and she hits her head on the car. And this was a couple who literally made that commercial for like $4. And they won $1 million and obviously national fame and fortune. And that was a real concussion, believe it or not. She did hit her head as she was as the car was going by, and they only one take. So that's an interesting story.
well,
So Doritos had so much fun with that, and their participants did. Very similar to what Heinz has done with Can You Top This on YouTube.
Yes.
And so Doritos once again is going to have something, but more musically oriented. They're looking for the best song of the year to highlight Doritos.
Lots of fun stuff to
Always
look
fun.
for.
Tuesday segment, we are talking with Dr. Audrey Guskey about which ads worked and which didn't. So, Audrey, we got to ask you right off the top what your favorite was. We know the one the people are talking about in Pittsburgh a lot, which was the Ben Roethlisberger American Idol one, but what did you like best?
Well, Sonny, I did like the Ben Roethlisberger one for American Idol. That was fabulous because it took everyone off guard. Nobody was expecting that. And to see Ben, who obviously is a super hero as far as athletes, but to see him attempting to sing was absolutely priceless. That was great. The other one that I liked was the one for Budweiser, where they had, it was called Hank, and the Clydesdale was trying to make the team, and then the Dalmatian helped him. I loved that one because it was the only one that actually had a story. It went from beginning to end, and you know, it was sort of like tugged at your heart. It was like the underdog, or maybe the underhorse tended to win. So that was also a very nice one. I think that will be one of the classics.
Overall, Dr. Guskey, overall, I thought the commercials were pretty unimpressive compared to years past. That's just my opinion. Now, I know a lot of other folks have echoed that as well. Which ones do you think missed the mark this year? You just mentioned your favorites. Which one missed?
Well, Keith, there were a few that really missed the mark. The Sales Genie one with the cartoons, it was rather offensive to different ethnic groups. It just didn't make sense. It was very poorly done. Also, unfortunately, the E-Trade one with the baby and the baby with sort of like vomiting. That was a horrible one too.
I got to tell you, that was my favorite.
Well, no, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Are people really offended by that?
Listen, it made sense. You got a baby who was trying to prepare for his future, and it was what babies do. And then the clown and
That's what babies
I thought it was funny. I did.
That one
I
didn't
like
seem
that
well.
one.
There were a lot of movie trailers too, and there were also a lot of car advertisements, and those tended to be either rather boring or just really didn't catch people's attention. So those probably weren't well. But when you're looking at Super Bowl ads, what makes a good ad? Well, first of all, people have to remember what the product or service is. You want it to be like the 3 C's: cute, creative, and you also want it to be cool. And so you want it to like either have a lot of special effects, or you want it to have actors. It was a big celebrity and a Critters, believe it or not, Super Bowl, because there was a lot of animals. There was over 20 celebrities, whether it was Carmen Electra or we had Will Ferrell, we had Justin Timberlake, which were cute and clever commercials, and people like to watch those as well.
Audrey, $2.7 million for 30 seconds, right?
Absolutely, Sunny. Yeah.
And I guess that was the record set.
That was a record, and people always say, was it worth it? Absolutely, because if you break it down to literally cents, it's 3 cents to reach every viewer. That's not bad, considering you had half of America, you had over almost 100 million people watching. That's huge record setting. And so this is the type of mass marketing that you can't get anywhere else. So all the big players that were in the Super Bowl, they were all winners too, and I think Madison Avenue felt that they had a Super Bowl too.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, Audrey, I know GoDaddy.com posted some that were too hot for TV on their website.
Right.
Are a lot of companies taking that approach after the Janet Jackson incident? They don't want to offend too much. They're kind of playing it safe. Is that what's happening?
Sonny, this was a really interesting marketing strategy because they claimed that they were censored and this ad wasn't allowed to be on national TV. The NFL and Fox vetoed it. Well, I think in reality they did that on purpose because they wanted to draw people to their website, because what you've got is the website they create. You know, they're dealing with internet and online services, and so they wanted people to head there, which is exactly what happened. And they had record numbers of people who actually went during the game to go online to watch the commercial. So it tended to work absolutely, and that's the latest thing that's going to be happening. They're driving us all day yesterday. What did we do? We watched the ads online.
Sure.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Dr. Gusky, thanks very much for being here. We appreciate it with her insight.
Fans with confetti in a ticker tape parade down Broadway in New York City. Their Super Bowl victory was just that, super. But what about the ads this year? Were they super or just so-so? Duquesne marketing professor Dr. Audrey Gusky is here with her take on the ads. Good morning.
Good morning, Christine.
All right, so what makes a good Super Bowl ad?
Well, you really want it to have like the 3 C's. It should be creative, it should be cute, and it should also be cool. So it's got to have maybe animals. This was the year of the critters and the celebrities.
Yes.
They had 20 celebrities, whether it was athletes or Carmen Electra. They had Justin Timberlake, Will Ferrell were all on. And there were a lot of animals, and the animals seemed to win the prize this year as far as the Super Bowl. Whether it was the rat grabbing the Doritos, or whether it was the horse, or dogs, or lizards, or, you know, all kinds of different animals.
So I know one of the biggest, most popular ones, of course, for our area was Big Ben.
Huge, and here's our
another
celebrity.
star power, yeah,
which was a great commercial. It was absolutely funny because I think most people didn't realize it was going to be coming on, and there he was, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's Ben. And then the singing, well, we all know.
I think it's a surprise factor, not expecting him to sing.
Yeah.
Very funny. So humor is a big thing.
Humor is a huge thing. And, you know, this was selling American Idol. This particular commercial did not count as far as the rankings because it was a TV promo.
I see.
But still, we all loved that. But basically, you want humor. The one that was the favorite for all as far as USA Today ad meter was the one with the Clydesdale. It was called Hank, and the Dalmatian helped him, you know, join the team the next year. And that was a great one because it told a story from beginning to end. You know, here was this horse that didn't make it and very dejected, and then you have the Rocky theme coming through, and, you know, we know all the different, you know, training that this horse went through. And that was a classic, and that was #1 by far, very well ranked. And that was really the only one that had a beginning and an end and an actual story.
Do these really sell beer?
That is a great question. The answer is no, they don't, and they're not supposed to. These ads are put on because it's a Super Bowl for football, but it's a Super Bowl for Madison Avenue. The advertisers and marketers want to create an image. They want to be associated with this excitement, but they're also competing with each other because this is a big deal. So you've got Budweiser and Pepsi and Coke and Disney and all these big companies, and they're trying to, in a sense, get the recognition of America. Christine, this is the only mass marketing event that we have left in this country. Half of America, 100 million people were watching it. And so, you know, it sounds like a lot of money, 2.7 million. But when you really crack it down, it's only 3 cents per viewer. So that is not too bad. In a sense, it's sort of a bargain. But they're not necessarily there to sell the product. They're there to create the image and build the brand.
And part of that image then overall is to sell the product.
It is. Oh yeah, overall. The fact that, you know, people recognize the brand and see it as what it is, and they create these personalities and images of these organizations, that does sell. But the bottom line is, could they actually attach sales dollars to these ads? No, not really.
All right, so the Coke Wars, those are always popular. We've got the Pepsi ad, Where's Bob? How did this one go over?
This was a very good one. Most people were expecting it, so it wasn't a terribly surprise. And if people are thinking, I can't hear anything, actually in the commercial you couldn't. This was a completely silent commercial for 30 seconds. An inside joke with the deaf community, people who are hearing impaired. And as we all remember, the only thing the horn was honking, and the only house whose lights didn't turn on, of course, was someone who was hearing impaired.
And like you said, this got a lot of play before the Super Bowl. So it sounds like if they come up with something really creative and unique like this, they can get a lot of play outside just that night.
Absolutely, and not just that night, but also the next day and the next week. People are still going on YouTube and various places to look at the commercials.
Yeah.
So it's really a huge hype. We've been talking about it for days, and we'll continue to talk about what everybody's favorite ads were. So it's a big newsworthy thing, and it tends to work very, very well.
We've got another commercial, a Bud Light commercial. Now, was this, did Budweiser have exclusive rights, is that right, to alcohol?
They did,
beer
because
sales?
they ended up buying, I think it was about 10 minutes worth of commercials. And so they had a large audience, obviously. They were the #1 winner. This one with the fire-breathing one was one of the first commercials that was on air, and it was one that people recognized and really liked. And so they had a series of them, and they tend to be the #1 as far as amount spent. So they, of course, have exclusivity.
Wow. All right, Dr. Audrey Gusky, thanks for your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Kristen, always great.
And you can see Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University here on Pittsburgh Today Live, the first Tuesday.
Them toys are just less squeezable, less malleable. Now, new toy makers like Green Toys and Kids Give are trying to reinvent toys without that questionable chemical. But it's not that easy for established brands. Retail giant Toys R Us just announced it wants to stop selling children's products that contain phthalates or nickel cadmium batteries or PVC vinyl. All right, now sales figures have just come out for January, and the news was not real good for retailers.
The new stats show January sales are the lowest in about 40 years. Here to talk about that and its significance is Dr. Audrey Gusky for Consumer Tuesday. Hi, Audrey.
Hi, Sunny. Good morning. Hi,
So
Keith.
this is the swing, swing downward we've been seeing for the past couple of months. You said holiday sales were low, Christmas sales, and now this, following that
Absolutely.
holiday season.
This is very frightening because if you really look historically, January sales have never been this low since the time of the Brady Bunch when they were on about 40 years ago. And so what you had is overall sales were stagnant, or the overall January sales were down 0.5%. And so even though some retailers did fairly well, the majority of them did horribly. And as you were saying, Sunny, this is just an extension of Christmas. It was so bad, people weren't shopping, they weren't spending money. The redeeming factor typically for January is the gift cards. People typically use the gift cards, redeem them. They get them for Christmas and then they spend them in January. That did not happen. They either saved them, they spent them for milk and gas, or they basically were buying sale items. And so it really didn't give a boost to the economy as we had hoped.
Well, so what do you attribute to that? Is it because there's this fear of a recession, which we're not in a recession, but by definition, that's 2 quarters that are losing quarters, and that's roughly a 6-month period, and we haven't seen that yet.
Right, but we're very close to a recessionary period, Keith. And the problem is, as we had said, that, over and over again, gas prices have affected us. The sale for fuel has affected us. People didn't spend during Christmas. People are afraid about their job security. The economy is just really horrible. People are saving money. They're not spending. They're being very conservative. And that's unfortunately going to continue, I would guess, through at least the summer. And so I don't think we have any good news in sight.
Dr. Gusky, what stores were hit worse? You said there were some areas
Yes.
that really weren't that hard hit.
Yeah, well, if you look at the stores that did well, believe it or not, Saks did well. Their sales went up by 4% in January. Interestingly enough, at the opposite end of the spectrum, Costco did the best out of all of the retail stores. They increased by 7%. Now, put Walmart into the picture, they increased by 0.2%, which is a fraction of a percent. But you've got Macy's, who did horribly, lost sales 7% over the past year, as well as other department stores. Penny's did not fare well. Target did not fare well. A lot of the specialty types of stores did not fare well. Furniture did horribly. Electronics did horribly. Clothing did horribly. So if you look across the board at retailers as well as different types of products, things were very, very bleak in January.
Yeah, okay, we're in the early stages of this year, and a lot of folks like to try to take care of the bills that they ran up for Christmas and shortly after the new year. So the stimulus package that's coming out, most people are going to get anywhere from $300 to $600, and then families get a little bit more if they're under $150,000 or something like that. So is this actually going to help?
No, definitely not. It's really just a drop in the bucket. You've got $300 to $600 coming into families and households. They're either going to save it, they're going to pay off bills, they're not going to be spending. It's not really going to give the shot in the arm that we were hoping that it would. I think we basically just have to ride this thing out. It's bad news. It's going to be bad news for a while. Fortunately, Pittsburgh wasn't hit as bad as other areas because our housing market has been stable. And so we haven't had the progress, which is poor news, but overall we also haven't had the bad news. So we're just holding our own at this point.
And Dr. Gusky, as a consumer expert, any advice, quick advice for parents or families out there who are trying to kind of ride this out that you would give?
Well, I would say, Sonny, there's a lot of sales out there. So if you need things, especially for winter types of things, buy it for your clothes, for your children, buy different types of items for your family. You can save a lot of money by the discounts, but that's all that I would do. I would just spend on sale items only.
Sales. Hopefully certain people are listening to that. Sale items. All right. Dr. Gusky, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, and remember, Dr. Gusky is with us.
This morning, your options for finding the best bargain in the air might be headed right out the window.
Yes, it's the unfortunate news as more airlines talk about merging Delta and Northwest, just the latest two to announce this. So here to help us get on board with all the changes is Dr. Audrey Gusky for Consumer Tuesday. Good morning, Dr. Gusky.
Good morning, Sunny. Hi, Keith.
So this spells bad news for consumers?
Well, absolutely. We know that if you start merging major corporations, the problem for consumers is you lose choice. And so less choices, less options, less quality, and higher prices. So I think overall it's going to be a losing situation for consumers. But rumors are really flying high, and the prediction is Delta and Northwest will probably be merging, and perhaps Continental and United as well. So it's really merging. And if we have the merger with Delta and Northwest, it will be the largest airline in the entire world with almost 80,000 employees.
Wow. That's significant. So
Huge.
let's talk specifically. What's this mean for us in the Pittsburgh area?
Well, basically for Pittsburgh, it's going to mean, as I said, nationally, we're going to be losing some options. Prices are going to be higher. What's going to happen to our neighboring state, Ohio, is going to be horrible news because Cleveland and Cincinnati are still hub cities for United and for Continental. And so what's going to happen if the merger occurs, they're going to lose that hub status. So for a lot of people who used to drive to Cleveland or even Cincinnati to try to save some money, that option is no longer going to be an option for them.
Dr. Gusky, why all the bad news in general with the airline industry? You have a lot of, well, we know in Pittsburgh, you know, U.S. Airways cutting back on its flights from around here. Is it those fuel prices that are affecting so many airlines, or what else is at play here?
Yeah, Sonny, that's pretty much it. It's the fuel prices is the number one reason. They're claiming if this merger goes through between Delta and Northwest, it's going to save them $1.5 billion, mainly in fuel costs. They also claim that it's going to allow a lot of restructuring, saving a lot of money regarding the infrastructure. The problem is when you merge airlines, there's going to be some issues with reservations. There's also issues with the unions, and that's what we found when we had American West buying out U.S. Airways. And so I think it's going to be a problem for consumers overall because the number of companies you limit, and the bigger they get, the worse news it is really for consumers.
Well, so how's this going to affect the consumer? Not the consumer, the discount airlines like Southwest. You know, you get these great trips, round trip. You can run to Chicago for $80 or less.
Yeah.
Is this going to affect those prices?
I think that's going to be good news for them because they're going to continue to offer the discount prices. The problem is they're still smaller. So if you have Southwest and a lot of the airlines, JetBlue, who are offering very discount prices, they're not going to be as big as the mega airlines. And so they may have issues with the fuel and with the largeness of the infrastructures of their competition. But overall, I think they'll continue to thrive and they'll probably even do better, at least from the consumer's point of view, because we're going to be looking to save money, and that's the place to go.
And Dr. Gusky, does this mean, too, that those merging airlines will be offering less of those promotional deals? U.S. Airways does the e-savers. If you subscribe to those in Pittsburgh, too, you've noticed they've been almost non-existent. I mean, does this mean those discount programs with these merging airlines will also be changing?
Exactly, Sonny. I think that's what's going to happen because if you merge all these airlines, they don't necessarily have to play the game as far as discounts because there's limited competition. And so the reason they offer the discounts is to get us on board, and that's not going to be necessarily the case in the future because they won't have to. They're going to be the only players in the field other than the smaller discount ones. So overall, I think prices are going to go up for airlines as they have been going. Travel's increasing. Traffic is increasing in airports. And so I think, once again, for travelers, it's going to be very tough for them.
All right. Great. Thanks very much for that. We appreciate you being here. And that's Audrey Gusky. And remember, you can talk with Dr. Audrey Gusky with us every Tuesday here on the Pittsburgh CW for the very latest in consumer news.
The spring, of course, comes Easter, and actually it's right around the corner, coming a little earlier than normal this year.
And retailers are hoping the early start will boost sales for them. Here with us this morning to discuss the Easter retail picture is Dr. Audrey Gusky for Consumer Tuesday. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Keith.
All right, so let's start off. There's going to be, this is a big push, right, in the retail shopping, in the retail world, we should say, with a lot of folks cashing in on Easter.
Absolutely. Easter is no Christmas. However, it is the sixth biggest holiday as far as spending goes. It's behind Halloween, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and Father's Day. And so you're looking at $14 billion being spent over the next couple of weeks. And the average consumer spending $135. The problem with this year, it's not good news that it's early, it's bad news, and chances are there's going to be snow on the ground. And consumers just aren't ready for Easter, and so they're not going to be spending. And so a lot of industries, particularly the candy industry, is predicting that sales are going to go down about 6% from last year, which is horrible news because we all know that the economy in 2008 is not strong, and everyone was hoping that Easter would give a boost and hop us into a better economy, and it's not going to happen.
So we should all do our part by buying as many Cadbury eggs as possible.
We probably should.
I guess I don't understand that. Why? I mean, if you bought your kids candy last year, or the Easter Bunny brought candy last year, why isn't he bringing it this year? I guess it doesn't make sense.
Well, the Easter Bunny is going to be very busy, but he's concerned that his little tail is going to be frozen, and so, you know, it's not just the candy that people are looking at, but they're also looking at fashions and food for the family, and believe it or not, people are decorating their homes, and they're even buying costumes to dress up, and so it's become really a marketing bonanza. But the problem is when you don't have as much time to spend, you're not going to buy as many gifts for other people, and maybe not get as many little tidbits in as far as candy goes.
Audrey, let's talk about this in relation to the greater picture here. A lot of people predicting a recession, others saying we're already in the grips of one. Is it possible for one big shopping event on a holiday to really turn that around anyway, or would we still be heading in the same direction regardless of how Easter sales were?
Yeah. Great question, Sunny. It's not that one holiday would necessarily change things around dramatically. However, if we did have a great shot in the arm, it might keep us out of the recession. So at least for a small period. Keep in mind, January, February are very slow retail months. And so when you've got a holiday, you had Valentine's Day, and now we have Easter coming through. So it may, in a sense, give retailers just an opportunity to sell more merchandise and sort of get them, you know, a little bit more stable as far as the spending for consumers. So it won't necessarily get us out of a recessionary period, but it could be a very positive thing. Unfortunately, this year that's not going to happen because Easter being so early, it's the second earliest day it could possibly be on March 23rd, and people have been just so conservative in their spending, they're not going to jump out there and spend a lot of money now.
I saw a great editorial cartoon. It was the refund checks coming from the federal government, and the wife turns to, or the husband turns to the wife and says, let's go fill up the gas tank. Are gas prices going to affect how we shop this spring?
Absolutely, Keith. The problem is that gas prices are almost like a tax on everything. It increases the price of everything that we're buying. So the delivery costs are going to go up, the cost of a lot of the production as far as petroleum types of products. The retailers have had to jack prices up as well, and so consumers have felt the crunch, fueling your home, fueling your car, and that's going to have a big effect upon us over the Easter holiday as it's going to the rest of 2008.
All right, Dr. Audrey Gusky, we thank you for your time this morning. And remember, Dr. Gusky is with us every Tuesday for the latest in consumer news in that Consumer Tuesday segment.
Buying for Easter?
I think people would be surprised what they're buying because you don't think of that as I'm buying this for Easter.
Yeah.
So the meal overall is going to cost people at least $30 on average.
So it's a big family gathering food
Absolutely.
holiday.
So it's more than you would typically have for a Sunday afternoon brunch. And then you've got the clothes that everyone's buying, new suits and new little dresses for the girls. And then you've got, of course, Easter baskets to buy so that way the Easter Bunny can fill that up.
Yes. And now that I think about it, grandparents are often buying like not just baskets but gifts in addition
Absolutely.
to
And cards
candies.
are being sent, and believe it or not, people are decorating their houses and they're even buying costumes. So it's become the sixth biggest holiday. Behind Christmas, you've got Mother's Day, Father's Day, Halloween, and Valentine's Day. So it is a big marketing bonanza, as always. Yeah.
All right. So how big of an impact does that have on the economy?
It has a huge impact. Keep in mind, if this is very early this year, we can talk about that in a minute, but basically Easter, you don't have a lot of things happening between Christmas and Easter other than Valentine's Day. So marketers are looking for a boost because January and February are typically their worst months of the year. And so if they're very slow, this is an opportunity, an excuse for people to spend money. And typically when Easter comes, people are in the spring mood and they want nice things for their home and they want to wear nice spring outfits. However, this year, because Easter is the second earliest day it could ever be, March the 23rd, yes, because it has something to do with the lunar cycle, and so it's very, very early this year. As a result, most people are not going to be in the mood to buy Easter outfits because chances are there's still going to be snow on the ground.
Well, yeah, especially living in Pittsburgh. Maybe if you're in Florida or California, but...
Exactly. So that's going to put a huge damper.
Yeah.
So Christmas may not be as hoppy as you would typically expect for retailers. And so it's going to be a huge issue. People will be wearing their winter coats and probably winter outfits. And so as a result, you add all that together, people are still spending $135 per person on average.
$135 a person?
Yes.
Wow.
$14 billion this year. So it's very huge, a lot of spending. But the problem is, as we said, Easter so early. They are even predicting that Easter candy sales may be 6% less than they were last year. That's never happened before, so that could be a record.
Now, is some of that because of the economy? I know we keep hearing about stagflation, inflation, all these negative things going on in the economy.
Yeah, that could be part of it, obviously. Gas prices are very high. That's going to be an issue as well. People haven't been spending through 2007 and 2008. So why all of a sudden are they going to start spending money now? You add all those factors together, the high gas prices, the fact that people haven't been spending, the fact that we may be in a recession period. Easter is very early. And so chances are for retailers it's not going to be really a good holiday season for them.
So we know Christmas wasn't great.
No, it was horrible.
What about Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day was fair, believe it or not. But overall, if you look at Christmas in particular, set low records. They're claiming that was some of the worst sales that we had in 10 or so years. If you look at January sales, they were the lowest in 30 years as far as the increase over the previous year. And so if you have basically no increase in sales over the past year, which is obviously, as we all know, a recessionary period. And so we're either in it or moving very quickly toward that.
And so holidays are someplace where the retailers are hoping to get people excited about spending again.
Absolutely, because it's a shot in the arm for them. It's an opportunity for shoppers to go out into the stores and buy things and look at this fun spring fashions and things for your home. And because Easter, you know, is a very spiritual holiday as well, you've got about 80% of Americans actually celebrating this holiday. And so we all know what we tend to do when we celebrate is we go out and spend money. And so people will be spending, they will be out in the stores, but not in the great volume and the large amounts of money that retailers are hoping for.
All right, Audrey Gusky, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kristen.
And you can see Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University as a regular guest here on the first Tuesday of every month.
Now spring is a great time to make some improvements around the house, and you don't have to dig too deep into your pockets to get the best job, and you can also do it yourself. And with the Home and Garden Show underway, lots of ideas out there to help get your house ready for some warmer weather and hopefully some sunshine. But does it really pay off to go with those do-it-yourself projects? Here with some Home Improvement 101 advice is Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University for our Consumer Tuesdays. Dr. Gusky.
Hi, good morning, Allison. Hi, Sunny.
So does it work? Can you do it yourself? I'm scared to even attempt a home improvement project. I call my dad for that kind of stuff. But can you do it? I mean, if you have little experience, and can it be a good repair?
Well, what you have to first keep in mind is 72% of people actually believe that they are doing the home improvement. They are do-it-yourselfers. And you've got an industry that's growing by leaps and bounds by at least 6 to 10% every year. You've got over $300 billion a year being spent. So there's a lot of people out there who are doing it themselves and believe that they actually can. There's a lot of things you have to keep in mind. Safety is a big issue. I've done a lot of work myself at my home. I have a big old Victorian in Bridgeville, and you have to be careful. That's a waterfall that I put in with my cousin Tom, which was very strenuous, obviously, the stones being very big, but I was very happy with that. It saved me probably about $8,000 to $10,000 as far as having someone else do it. You also have to be careful. As I said, over the summer, I redid my deck in the back, and I accidentally knelt in some acid, and so unfortunately I've scarred my knee.
Audrey, that's a gorgeous house, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're admiring your home while you're talking.
I'm very proud of it. I've been there 5 years now. It's over 100 years old. As I said, it's in the Bridgeville area, and it is just wonderful. But as we all know, people who have big old homes, it's a lot of upkeep, and there's a lot of things you actually have to do regarding keeping your home. The Home and Garden Show is a wonderful opportunity for people to get that out there and take a look at all the different vendors and the different options that you have and the different possibilities for your home. And as you guys had said, spring is a perfect time to actually start this. But you also have to keep in mind when you're hiring a contractor, if you don't want to do it yourself, you want to get at least 3 bids. You want to make sure that you do your homework. You want to actually know what you want as well. So you want to do some research, as I said. Check around, talk to neighbors, figure out who they've used as far as references go. You have to understand how much it's actually going to cost and how long it's going to take and what exactly the contractors are going to do. Are they going to be cleaning up afterwards? And you want to pay in installments. Don't pay all at once, because that way, that as a consumer gives you the option then to, if they haven't done a good job, to then not pay them the rest of the money. Otherwise, if you pay it all to them, you could be really stuck for that.
That's some great advice there. Now, what do you have to do, Dr. Gusky, to figure out exactly what it's going to cause you to do something yourself? Because you can kind of, get estimates from people if they're going to do the job, but how do you know when all is said and done what it's going to cost you to do it yourself?
Yeah, exactly. There's an algebraic way to do that. First of all, you want to figure out how many hours it's actually going to take you. That may be hard to estimate, but at least give it your best shot. Do some research, talk to people who have done it. You want to figure out how much is your time actually worth and multiply it by that hour, plus add all the costs. So basically you're figuring what is your time worth and all the materials and other costs that it's going to cost you. And then you want to compare how much it's going to cost for a contractor. It may be much cheaper for you to hire someone else. Good example, an oil change. It's going to cost you about 20 bucks to do an oil change yourself, where it costs, if you go to a retail place, it's going to cost you about $22. So, it's worth that extra $2 for you not to have the hassle. But there's advantages to doing it yourself. The pride, the bragging rights that you may have, sharing, I redid this kitchen, I remodeled this floor. And so a lot of times people have to keep that in mind as well.
Hey, Audrey, we're running out of time, but I wanted to get just a very quick answer from you on what is worth doing to improve your house if you're thinking about selling. What ups the value, just really quickly, if you could.
Great question, Sunny. Kitchen, definitely. The kitchen, every single dollar you invest in the kitchen will come back at least once, maybe twice.
What about flooring?
Flooring is an important thing, but they say kitchen is the best, followed very quickly by bathroom.
Gotcha. Dr. Gusky, thank you. Remember, she's with us every Tuesday for the latest in consumer news. Some very good tips there.
Out there shopping.
With Easter coming early this year, there's not much hope that the holiday is going to help boost sales. Here with us today to update us on the Easter retail picture is Dr. Audrey Gusky for Consumer Tuesday. And first, let's describe the Easter holiday. There's a lot of spending that goes on for this particular holiday.
Well, there is. It's not really a typical marketer's paradise as far as holiday spending goes, but you still have $14.4 billion being spent, with the average shopper going out there and spending $135, which was exactly the amount they spent last year. So if you look at, typically you want your economy to grow. It's not going to happen this year. It's going to stay rather stagnant. And part of the reason is because Easter is so early this year. It hasn't been this early since 1913, and it won't be this early again for over 100 years. And so when you're looking at, it's still very chilly out and people aren't used to spending, that's going to be a problem for people.
You talked about, Audrey, what people do buy during Easter. Obviously, candy is part of it, but let's take a look at some other things that people actually spend their money on during the Easter holiday, if you could talk about that.
Yeah, people are spending money on, if you look at meals, the big Easter meal, people are spending a little bit over $40. Clothing, they're spending for their Easter bonnet and their Easter apparel, $23. Gifts, people are buying things, sending cards. And candy, of course, is the big one. People are spending $18. That's what you would typically spend for Easter, and then followed by flowers and decorations and other miscellaneous things. So you can see people are out there, at least, retail and spending wise. But, I wanted to look at candy in particular because that's such an interesting phenomenon. Obviously, when people think of Easter, they think of candy. Peeps is a very interesting story. It was invented in about 1955 by a guy named Sam Bourne, and these Peeps were literally born in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And it took them 27 hours to make a Peep about 50 years ago. Well, now it takes them 6 minutes. And so you've got 700 million Peeps. You could circle the globe once. That's how many little sugary treats. Don't worry, they're only 26 calories apiece, and they are still the #1 candy, even though jelly beans are also being consumed a lot, about 19 billion jelly beans.
Sugar-covered marshmallow. Who would think that so many people would buy?
And, what's funny is people are putting them on pizza. People are eating them frozen, and so Peeps have developed a little cult. Yes,
Peeps
I said
on
pizza. That's what I've heard.
That is so not good sounding.
That does not sound.
Where does chocolate fall on the list? I have to know that.
Chocolate is up there. Obviously, it's very, very popular. It's next to Halloween. It's the biggest chocolate and the biggest candy sales. And so you've got billions of dollars being spent, $1.9 billion on chocolate. And you've got a lot of little Easter bunnies and little Easter chicks as well. The chocolate, they started out to be solid, and now the hollows came through. And that was shortly after the Civil War. It started in Europe in the 1880s when people were using chocolate and the eggs because of the fertility. And then it switched over to the United States. And obviously it's a huge, huge, huge success here.
One thing we know about you, Dr. Audrey, is that that you are incredibly thorough. This is a big travel weekend, travel holiday. A lot of folks go see Grandma and Grandpa, or Grandma and Grandpa come in to see the grandkids. Is that happening less this year?
Well, it is. Even though the gas prices are high, this is a big traveling holiday, and so people will be visiting their families to have their Easter meal. It's not as big a travel time as you would have during Thanksgiving, which is the biggest, or even Christmas. But still, you know, with a long weekend, a lot of people are trying to travel wherever they can and be with their loved ones.
All right, so down overall, we were hoping for a boost. Any holiday, can sometimes help the economy get that shot in the arm, but this isn't going to be the holiday that does that, is it, Dr.
Yeah, that's
Gusky?
exactly right, Sunny. We were hoping that this might be the case because typically Easter is the big kickoff for spring fashions and spring shopping, and people are cleaning their homes and buying new things and remodeling, as we talked about last week. And so, we were hoping as retailers and as marketers that this would be a nice shot in the arm. It is going to be a little bit of a boost, but when you look at how much was spent last year and this year being about the same, gas prices being so very high, people being so frightened about the economy, they're going to be very conservative this year. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a help and a little bit of a boost, and it will make retailers a little bit hoppy, but sorry, I had to get that in, but I think overall...
$4 billion in productivity over the next 3 weeks.
Maybe people in Pittsburgh, kind of since Pitt's out, not so much.
We're a productive community again.
Yeah, try to be. Here to help you and your company stay more productive, wherever you are right now, is Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University. And Audrey, first question is it really that bad? Do companies really lose $4 billion?
Seems like a huge amount of money.
Well, they are saying that people are losing that much money. They're claiming that it's the average person is spending 13.5 minutes per day watching the game. So if you add that up and figure out the amount of money that people are earning as a result of that time, you're looking at about $2.5 to $3 billion in losses over these next couple of weeks.
There are rumors that it's worse this year than last year. Is it really worse this year?
Well, the problem this year, Keith, is as you had said, you have every game now. This is the first time in the history of basketball that you've got every game streaming online. And so as a result, everyone has the opportunity to watch every game. Now, keep in mind the Super Bowl itself is only about a 3-hour game, and it is a national holiday, but with something like the NCAA playoffs, you have everyone involved with this because it's weeks on end, and also you've got a lot of hometowns. Of course, we were all excited when Pitt was still included, even though we're thrilled that the women's basketball is still in. But you've got small teams like Butler, and you have Davidson, who is now still in it even. And so you've got a lot of people across the country rooting for their hometown teams, which makes it very exciting. And of course, the office polls make it even more fun for people to be involved and watch the games. And so people are really hooked on the NCAA playoffs.
People are putting money on that or anything, but just for
fun.
Good, clean fun,
Yeah.
right? So what can companies do? You can sometimes block websites. Is that really the only option here, Audrey?
Well, this seems to be, Sunny, that this is the time of the year where the computers and the IT people sort of pull their hair out because it is really frustrating for them because of the dealing with the bandwidth and slowing down the whole system. And if everyone in the office is actually watching the games, or at least parts of the games, it could be a problem for them. What I recommend to do is take advantage of it, embrace the fact that people are going to be enthusiastic and enjoying the games. And so maybe have a day where everyone wears their favorite team's t-shirt or sweatshirt. Maybe have polls that are sponsored, sanctioned by the actual company. Have opportunities where maybe you have a big screen TV in the cafeteria where people can go and actually watch the games. So they don't have to watch it privately in their own office. So there's a lot of opportunities for companies to sort of get people motivated and enjoy the fact that, hey, all of America is watching the basketball games.
Great way to boost morale. And don't you think that the companies that offer office pools they're advocating the loss of productivity?
Well,
I for one love this company because it encourages us to get into our KDK bracket challenge. So we're allowed to go ahead and...
It really is encouraged.
Well, there's nothing wrong with bracketology. You also have to keep in mind, too, that for a lot of salaried people, they may be spending 13.5 minutes, but they're staying afterwards. And so even though they may be giving up some time in the morning or the early afternoon, they may be there late at night. So we have to keep that in mind, too. So overall, are we losing that much money? Well, we may be, but people, I think, are overall making up for it.
All right. Dr. Audrey Gusky, thank you very much for your time. Remember, Dr. Gusky is with us every Tuesday for the very latest in consumer news. So,
April Fool's Day, the one day out of the year that you're expected to play a joke on somebody or become the target of someone's
yes,
joke.
and we're just waiting for that to happen in the newsroom. But where did this day come from? We're going to talk about the history and also what types of items are marketed to bring more fun into this day. Here this morning to talk about that with us is Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University for our Consumer Tuesday segment. And Dr. Gusky, I didn't know there was so much to April Fool's Day, at least in the marketing aspect of things.
Hi, Sunny. Good morning. Hi, Keith. There really is. You know, today's the day that everybody has to literally look over their shoulder and keep an eye on what's happening because you just don't know what particular pranks or jokes that are going to be played on you. As you know, me being a marketer, marketers are attempting to get their hands into everything, and so they're trying to get different products on the shelves. And you know, there's the typical quarter with double heads, or there's the peppered foods. You eat a mint and it has a lot of pepper in it. They now have a ball that looks like it's actually gone through someone's windshield, so you can like paste it on someone's windshield and looks like it's actually shattered it.
That's horrible.
That would be a very scary one. You've got, of course, body jewelry and tattoos that are probably for teenagers trying to frighten their parents that they actually had all this stuff done. So that would, be scary for parents. But there's a lot of things that marketers are attempting to do.
I know that April Fool's started in Europe, but do other countries celebrate as feverishly as we do?
Well, not as feverishly, but in England they do, but it's only in the morning, and in Portugal they celebrate it, but it's usually during Lent, not on April 1st, which is sort of weird, and they throw flour on people, which, you know,
That's fun.
Flour?
which would be pretty yucky. You
Just
know,
walking down the street, you get flour poured on you?
That's what they're doing.
Oh my gosh, that's fun. That's
I
fun
mean, if you want to look at the, if you
So
want to look at the history of it, though, they claim it started with Chaucer in the 1400s with a book that was called Nun's Priest's Tale, which of course we've all read. But basically, most historians are claiming that it started with Pope Gregory the 13th, when we went from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, and they used to celebrate New Year's Day on April 1st, and so that's sort of the...
So it's a day for jest and celebration and that sort of thing.
And for fun, yes,
And
as
for
long
fun.
as it's safe and you don't hurt anyone or anything.
Right.
Sure. So let's go through a couple of the typical pranks.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a list of a couple, and I've fallen for at least one on this list. So it's the first one. It's the first one. I admit I'm always looking for meter change. I try to pick up a quarter. And
So
it's
glue on the quarter, you know, seems to be an easy one to do for people. Tying someone's shoelaces together, I think that would be hard to keep people's attention that you're actually doing that. Setting the clocks ahead is a good one. Do it to your spouse or your children and have them panicking and then realize that
Unless they work on the morning shift, Audrey, that would be bad.
That's true. That would be hard to do. You've got Oreos being replaced with toothpaste.
That is gross.
That is great. I'm going to do that to my kids.
I think I'm going to do that one too. Be careful, don't put holes in people's plastic cups because they may get pretty gross. And then of course there's the doggy doo-doo, which seems to be everywhere. And don't remove the labels off of everyone's canned foods because then it's going to only hurt yourself. You won't know what you're actually
That's
Oh, yeah,
true.
there's allergies out there too.
And I just wanted to say before we leave to my class is canceled today, all of you students. April Fool's.
Hey, well, we knew that was
April Fool's.
coming.
Not that they're up this early watching either, but just in case they are, a little
All
joke
right.
on them.
Well, they have been properly informed then.
Yeah.
What's your favorite, real quickly, April Fool's joke ever
We have-
played? 15 seconds, be quick.
I don't know. I told
don't know.
someone once we were at a conference and I said the paper was supposed to present it the day before, and that sort of messed her up because we'd flown all the way to California. And so I think that was my favorite joke I pulled on someone.
Stressful.
Mine
All right.
plays big in my house. 4th grade stuff, my 4th and 5th grade.
Marketed to bring more fun to this day. Here to discuss that with us this morning and help us answer some of those questions is a woman we know and love and respect, and unfortunately she heard a few of my expletives.
I did. And let me tell you, I am frightened to be on the show. I told the producer, I said, Jill, I changed my mind. I have nothing to say for April Fool's because it's been wild all morning. You should have seen. Jim is jumping around, emptying your desk. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Jim's not right. He's got, you know,
Yeah, we know.
he's got problems.
I agree. April Fool's obviously is it's the beginning of spring, and so a lot of people claim that this is sort of the way to let loose. Winter's done, and let's have some fun. Some historians are claiming that it was a Gregorian calendar. It used to be the Julian calendar.
Yes.
Pope Gregory the 13th changed it to the Gregorian calendar,
Right.
and the New Year's Day used to be on April 1st, and he switched it to January 1st.
Oh,
And so a lot of people weren't aware of that or didn't accept it, and so that's where sort of April Fool's came to be.
But then the pranking business, like what happened to me today, and I've had good pranks before, but that was one of the best.
That was
You come into work and your desk is cleared off. What's your first thought?
Well, I would react the way you did.
I mean, history.
But you stuck around.
Well, I'm still here as far as
And hopefully
the show.
you'll find your stuff. I mean, hopefully it's somewhere.
Well, you know, it's
trash.
starting to pop up here and there. But what are some other pranks?
Some of the classic
The lamest.
ones. Well, my favorite is the Whopper. People created a left-handed Whopper. And so people went to the Burger King requesting it because they'd advertise it on the radio and on TV.
A left-handed Whopper.
So that's one of the marketers' more classics. We've got gluing quarters on the floor, tying shoes together. I wonder, like, where are these people when you're tying their shoelaces together? They don't notice that.
Yeah.
Setting clocks an hour ahead or an hour behind is a fun one.
Oh,
and how
right.
about the Oreos with the toothpaste? I think Jim Loke was doing that in the bathroom. So please keep it. If he offers you one, don't take it.
Offered me Oreos.
I know. Did he really?
Jeez, that's what
Well,
was good. Yes,
he
he
saved
did.
you from that one.
I didn't take it.
But those are some classics that have happened.
Well, or the big one though, unless I'm mistaken, wasn't Orson Welles' War of the Worlds an April Fool's joke?
That was, I think, on Halloween.
Yeah.
That was a Halloween
okay,
joke.
okay,
But a
that's
lot
right.
of people think it was April 1st.
That's right.
Yeah, and there's a big rumor going around that McDonald's is going to be merging with Microsoft, so it'll be McSoft. So you can get your burgers and get them online and pay for them and get them quick, like fast paced. So and people have a lot of fun with it. It's always a
And
great.
another old one is changing all the labels on the cans in the house. That would be good for you.
Oh, yeah, big toast.
Except you don't do
confused.
it. You don't cook. You don't
If
do
you put
anything.
holes in a plastic cup, but you don't really want to do that because you could really mess someone up. And Brenda and I don't want to talk about the dog and doo-doo, but people
Oh,
like that.
man, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, on the front steps, on the front porch. Yeah.
And
And
one of the
lighting or
classics
something.
too is the Swiss company. In Switzerland, they had said in a big media story that spaghetti was growing on trees in Switzerland. That's one of the classics of all times. And they had farmers going out there and literally picking spaghetti off the trees. People believe these things. I don't know. Excuse me, Brenda, I think you have some lipstick on your teeth.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
April Fool.
Oh, no, it's there, baby.
No, really.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a big red lipstick thing. It looks awful.
No. Tony says it's not there.
All right.
We had to get you to.
Sorry.
And I also wanted
There we go.
to tell my class.
Feels good, doesn't it?
See, you're fine. Sorry. And I also wanted to mention my class. There was no class today. I've canceled all the classes.
Is that April Fool's?
Well, wait and see. No. April Fool's, sorry guys. I'm sure they're all excited. They're like, yay.
And you know what? I bet you never invite me to come speak to him ever again after what I said in that newsroom this
What
morning.
did you say?
I can't say it. I can't believe I said it.
Your reaction was very natural. It was, they really got you on that one.
See, I had to walk away because you look so stupid.
What's
Yeah, people like that. Like,
what's stupid?
what?
Oh,
So I couldn't
And
look
one
at you.
final thing, do you know that Taco Bell bought the Liberty Bell? So it's now the Taco Liberty Bell.
Taco Liberty Bell.
Oh,
They're going to stop all debt.
that was pretty bad. That was bad.
Time to go on that one.
That's right. Thanks for joining us. I know you're here every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of every month. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Great job. Appreciate it. Still ahead this hour, folks. Spring.
All right, the time is 7:47. Today's extremely high gas prices have most families crunching their budgets.
And those rising prices expected to affect our overall spending this summer. Here to talk about that today with us is Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University with Consumer Tuesday. Good morning.
Good morning, Keith. Hi, Sunny.
All right, so folks are going to pinch pennies this summer. Is that what you see?
Well, we're absolutely going to have to because the high gas prices have affected us tremendously as consumers. You look at food costs such as milk and eggs, dairy types of products, meat products have gone up about 20 to 25%, which is huge. If you look at what gas prices were last year in 2007, they're up about 95 cents. What that means is about 500,000 people, 500,000 people have lost their jobs. Consumer costs have gone up as a result of that, 2.5%. So it's really a huge crunch for family members. And what we found is people are basically spending for food and spending for gas, and they don't have any extra money for clothing is hit hard as well as household goods.
And Dr. Gusky, summer is the time that most families choose to travel and take those yearly vacations. What kind of suggestions can you make for a family who is kind of on a budget as far as still getting out and enjoying themselves this summer?
Yeah, Sonny, that's going to be a problem for a lot of people, and they've predicted that
travel may go down as much as half, like 50% of all the people who had gone on vacation last year, because we just don't have the extra money. There are ways to save some income and some money. Basically, what you want to do is shop around, obviously, for good airfare. If you're going to be traveling, as a lot of people are by car, you probably want to stay close to home, and so you may not be traveling 4 or 5 hours. You may be traveling an hour or an hour and a half, and so that's one way to do it. You really have to plan ahead. There's going to be a lot of discounts as far as hotels, because people aren't going to be traveling as much, but airfare is going to be extremely steep, and gas, as we all know, it is going to be very high as well.
Well, conversely to that, then, if folks are staying closer to home, do you think the local economies will see an impact? Because folks are not spending money to travel, they're actually at home, and they're going to spend more money here.
I think, Keith, you're exactly right. We're going to have a lot of what we call day vacations or long weekends, and so people will be staying and going to local venues and amusement areas, and so I think that's going to be very positive for the local economy, but overall we still don't have a lot of money to spend, so people are still going to be counting every penny that they have.
What can consumers do in general, Dr. Gusky, to just save money during these tight times?
Well, you have to be very careful. We're all getting that extra incentive, hopefully, but that's still not a lot of money. A lot of people are going to be spending that basically on paying bills and saving the money. So what you want to do is just count your pennies. There are a lot of sales out there. So, you know, shop bargains, be conservative, and we'll get through it. A lot of people are saying we're not in an recessionary period or inflation, we're in what's stagflation. So it's a combination of both. So it's tough times for everyone.
All right, so the catalyst for all this is obviously the gas prices, the fuel prices out there for the penny pinching, the not taking summer vacations. Do you see these fuel prices continuing to increase throughout the summer and into the fall?
Unfortunately, I think we do, particularly in the summer. For whatever reason, gas prices are going to be going up. There's going to be more people using it, more demand, less supply, more people going on vacation and traveling. As a result, gas prices are going to continue to stay high, perhaps even get higher. So that's not good news overall for us as consumers, particularly in the Pittsburgh area.
Would you agree with the $4 by summer? $4 a gallon?
I'm not sure. We're getting close to that. We may possibly hit it at least for a little bit, and then it may drift from and go back down to $3.90. Okay. But at this point, yeah, whoa, big savings. But I think it's going to be very, very high. So it's going to be tough for everyone.
Sure. All right. Dr. Gusky, thank you very much for your time. And remember, Dr. Audrey Gusky is with us. As we have mentioned at least once before in this broadcast, today is the last day to file your tax returns, and record numbers of people have waited until the last minute to file.
With us today, Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University to discuss this year's tax returns and the rebates so many folks are waiting for. Good morning. Thanks for being here this morning.
Hi, Keith. Hi, Sunny.
So what are the record numbers? We know that is it half of all tax filers, 75%? Can you put a percentage on them?
From what I've heard and some of the numbers I've seen, it's about 25% of people wait till the last minute. And it's not just people who owe money, but it's also people who are getting money back. They just procrastinate. They just don't like doing it. About 20% of people spend over 10 hours doing it. And so it's a significant chunk of time for people to invest in doing their taxes. And for a lot of people, it's no fun.
Yeah, I'm one of those people.
I am one of those people.
It's not fun for. So this year, Audrey, with the additional rebate, in addition to the rebate, with the economic stimulus check coming to people, what do you expect people to do with this cash, with this extra cash?
Well, just like with the rebate, with the stimulus package, the majority of people are going to be paying off bills or trying to get out of debt, and they're going to be paying maybe utility bills or gas bills. And so as a result, it's not really going to be a shot in the arm that we were hoping for. You got about 20% of the people who will spend it on something, but the majority of people are just trying to use it for the day-to-day living and getting through and paying off their bills and their debt.
Conversely, those who owe, is it thought in theory that you hold on to your money as long as you can? That's why they wait till today?
Well, that could possibly be it, but I think it's just we're a procrastination society, and people like to just put it off to the last minute. It's not a fun thing that people enjoy doing, and it's just something that needs to be done. And as the post office will tell you, people are going to be turning in their returns until the last minute. The beautiful thing this year is you've got more people, about 65% or so, using electronic and filing electronically, which is much easier for the average person, and it's much easier for the post office and for the IRS as well.
Audrey, how much do people spend on their tax preparers? I mean, what's the average cost that people spend to have someone else do all their taxes for them?
I'm not quite sure, Sunny, but it's probably, about 60% or more people are actually using professionals to help file. And I would guess it's probably between $50 and $100 for the average person. If you have a typical return where there's not a lot of financial issues. If you're a small business or a large business, of course, you've got a lot more issues. But the average person, if they just have the basic returns, probably not a problem. I think one of the things we need to be aware of, too, is we're getting all this extra money coming in. There's a psychology behind it. People assume that this is free money, or it's found money, or it's almost like inheritance. That's not the case. It is your money. And so you have to be cautious with spending that, as well as any money that you earn. So it's your earned money, and you might want to, if you're getting too much back, the average person's getting $2,400 back, quite a chunk of change. You may want to take a look at the amount of money that they're withholding at your place of employment, because it is your money and it shouldn't be sitting in the government bank. It should be sitting in your bank.
Yeah, I've heard it described this way. It's a free loan to the government for a year.
Absolutely.
Until you get that money back in return. Let's talk about this real quickly. Is the money that everybody's getting back, also the stimulus package, is this going to be a shot in the arm for the U.S. economy? We're
hoping, but Keith, it probably won't be. I mean, once again, you're looking at a couple $1,000s per tax person, and so you're going to get a little bit of extra money into the economy, but it's not really the huge impetus and the huge shot in the arm that the local and the national economy is really hoping for.
All right, Audrey, well, I can say for one, right to the savings account for mine, for what little that I get back, but okay.
And Sunny and Keith, did you do yours yet? Have you filed?
I have filed. I got all the paperwork in yesterday. I have to just sign a couple things today. That's it.
I'm the same way. I'm going to have to mail it today.
I did the electronic filing stuff. Our W-2s came out, what was it, the end of January?
Right.
So very early February. My federal were done. Wow. I still got to do the state and local, which is...
That's bad.
I brought it all with me to work. I'm going to do it here on my lunch break.
All right, Dr. Audrey Gusky. Thank you very much for these last-minute tips. And remember, Dr. Gusky is with us every Tuesday right here on the Pittsburgh CW with the very latest in consumer news. Welcome back. As we've been saying all morning, of course, today, primary election day in Pennsylvania, and spending for the political ads you see on TV has reached record highs. But the question is, do those ads really work?
That's a lot of money floating around out there. Joining us in the newsroom is Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University School of Business to talk about the effect political ads have on voters and obviously the local economy. So first, let's talk about this. We know that Barack Obama raised $35 million. That was in the month of March alone. How much of that is spent here?
Barack has spent $9 million. And so, I mean, if you look at that, that is a huge record. Hillary Clinton is spending about half of that. And so these are records being broke all across Pennsylvania. If you feel like every commercial you've seen has been for politics, it absolutely has. And so it's been a huge boost in the arm as far as locally bringing all this money for advertising. But as far as political advertising, this is breaking all records totally across the board.
Audrey, do they work? Does research show that the television ads, the radio ads actually have an effect on voters' choices?
Well, Sunny, you look at both of the main Democratic candidates, and you've got them doing a lot of negative advertising. So the first question should be, does negative advertising work? Well, it doesn't. It tends to work for people who are maybe undecided or people who are on the side of the other candidate. But they're both using it, so in a sense, it's sort of like balancing each other out. Does overall political advertising work? It absolutely does, because it's got to get the political candidates in the face of all of the different voters. And so they've been spending tremendous amounts of money. And as we can see, with Obama coming through very strong, especially in the last couple of days, as far as the points that they're claiming he's going to have and the number of votes he's going to get. So overall, it seems like, yes, it is working. It is working very strongly.
We talked about $9 million for Barack Obama alone, and about $4.5 for Hillary. So that's $13.5 million. That's $14 million here in the state of Pennsylvania alone. How is this helping our economy? Do we actually see this?
We do see it, because as money is being spent, it's being spent on local media, all the campaigning that's being done, all the extra money that's being poured in for all the workers. And so what we're finding is that it's a nice shot in the arm for Pennsylvania, especially Pittsburgh area. We're also getting a lot of the national visibility. I was just in New York yesterday yesterday doing the Fox News channel, and everyone I talked to when I said it was from Pennsylvania, they wanted to know what's happening here. So it's huge news nationally as well as locally. So we're getting the visibility. We're also getting a tremendous amount of money. This is money that probably wouldn't have been spent here. So if you're looking at $13, $14, $15 million over the past month, that's a lot of money, and that's really pumping the economy, adding to the advertising budgets on all the TV and radio stations, and that's very positive for us.
Sure is. Dr. Audrey Gusky, we thank you for your time, and of course we'll find out today whether or not those ads actually did help the candidates. Thanks, Audrey.
Talking about friendly, lower-cost divorces with a new trend called collaborative law. Now, it might not be for everyone, but in the right cases, it can save you money and a lot of heartache. But first, as every voter knows by now, politicians are doing everything they can to get the votes out, and that means spending for political ads is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, it sure is, and of course that's good news for us here in the television business. Joining us this election day is Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University to talk about the effect of political ads on voters and on the local economy. Hey,
good morning,
Audrey. How are you?
Always good to see you, John.
You too. And
Hi, Christine.
Hello.
I just mentioned to Christine that it's great for us. Every 4 years we get this influx of cash that is here in the television business.
It really is great. And this is the primaries, and typically in Pennsylvania we don't have this excitement because by now everything's done.
Right.
And so in a sense it's newfound money. And if you look at Pennsylvania, Obama alone has spent $9 million, which is huge, and Hillary has about half of that.
On advertising in this state.
Yes.
Amazing.
Total, he's spending $60 billion. It's almost double what's been spent before. This is a scary thought. If you took all the ads that have been created for the presidential campaign, it would take 15 days to watch them. That's how many Obama alone has created. He has put on air 100,000 ads. Now put that in perspective. John Kerry only put out 19,000 ads. It's huge. So you think every ad that you're seeing is political? Yes, it is. It is. It is huge.
Well, and I guess he had to because everybody's so familiar with Hillary and the Clinton brand or name.
Right.
Who's Obama? And if you didn't know him, this is your first introduction. These commercials.
Exactly. And basically every penny that he's pulling in, he's like immediately putting it into media, particularly TV. And the beautiful part about political advertising, it's mainly local because you're going primary to primary. And so as we've said in the Pennsylvania area, $9 million by Obama and at least $4.5 million for Hillary. So you're looking at about $15 million that's been spent in the Pennsylvania area that typically would not be spent. So that is nice revenue. And as a result, what tends to happen is the prices of ads go up because you have limited supply and demand. So it's good news for all of us in the Pennsylvania economy. It's been very good.
I was going to say that really it does boost the economy overall.
Yeah, that's a positive thing. And when you're looking at the actual presidential campaign coming up soon, then we're also going to be having some additional money coming in.
So this isn't the end of it.
Exactly. But if you look at the ads, what we found is there's been a lot of negative ads, mudslinging, back,
and especially
stabbing.
in some of these local races, it's gotten pretty ugly.
Yeah, very ugly. And the question is always, do these work?
How effective is that?
Well, nobody knows. The results are very inconclusive.
How can we not know by this point, Audrey? It seems like after all these years, they either work or they don't, and research should show that.
You would think, John. Some of them show that they work and some of them they don't. Bottom line is they're still using them, so they must be working. They're at least doing something. They're maybe changing the minds of some voters who haven't decided, or people who are very strongly for one candidate. If they see negative ads for their candidate, they get riled up and get excited. So there's a lot more energy and motivation and just emotions running through. And so I think that tends to get people riled up. We've been using them, we've been seeing them the past 25 years, and they just keep escalating. I don't know if you remember the Daisy Girl during the Lyndon Baines Johnson. That was sort of the start of everything.
And that's like the end of the world, you know, the bomb.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have obviously made up their minds by today, but some people may not have. Who is really affected by these ads?
These ads would be most effective for the people who are undecided, who haven't, it's hard to believe that people don't know at this point, but there are still some people. And so it will affect them as well. And as I said, the very strong supporters of a candidate will affect them as well.
To get them to go out and actually make sure they
and to get them
vote.
not just to vote, but to get their friends to vote and talk to other people, maybe drive people to the polls and those types of things.
Who do you think's done the best job, Hillary or Obama? And then how about McCain? It occurred to me, do we even need to go to the polls and vote? If you're a Republican, you only got one guy. I mean, Huckabee's out, everybody's dropped except, well, Ron Paul. That's true, Ron Paul.
And of course the local elections.
Absolutely.
That's right. That's right.
And my advice to everyone out there is go and vote. Well, as a Republican, you need to show your support for your candidate as well, and just show that you're a strong American in that voting, and it's your responsibility to do that. As far as campaigns, who's done it right? Well, I don't know if I would say either of them, because they both have been so very negative. Obama, because he's put so much money into it, and his campaigns are sometimes tugging at the heart. So I would say I'd probably give him a little bit of a lead as far as the actual quality of the ads. He's put more on prime time too, and so that's been
And he's got more money to do it.
He has more money to do it, yes, and he spent it all here.
And we do appreciate it.
Thank you, Audrey.
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University's Marketing Department, as always, enlightening and enjoyable. Thanks so much.
If you went snail mail with your refund, then beginning May 16th, you'll start seeing those checks in the mail.
And that will be a pretty sight for sure. So what should you do with that money? And what are retailers doing to try and get us to spend it? With us for Consumer Tuesday is Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University with the answers to that. Audrey, we've been talking about this for a while. Do you cave in and spend it, or should we be saving this instead?
Good morning, Sunny. Hi, Keith. Well, it's a big dilemma for most consumers, and what the government is hoping is that it's going to have a huge boost to the economic problems we've been having. Last time they did this in 2001, the growth was about 7%, so they're hoping that's going to happen. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to take that money. Half of us consumers are going to take it and pay our bills. A third of us are going to save it, and then only 20% are going to spend it. So there's not going to be as much money into the economy as we had hoped, but it's still quite a chunk of change.
Let's talk about these retailers that are trying to entice everybody. Bring your rebate check in and we'll give you 10, 20, 30% off of a purchase there. Is this viable? Are folks going to use this?
Yeah, and does it sound too good to be true? Yeah, probably, but does it work? Absolutely. It's an extra 10% on top of the check that you're getting. So if you were planning on spending and planning on going out to an electronics store or to Home Depot is doing that, Kmart is doing that, Sears is doing that. So basically, if you take your check to them and give them the full amount and buy a gift card, they will give you up to 10%. And that's quite a chunk of change, and I think that tends to work for a lot of consumers. Once again, if your plan was to spend it, but you have to really check out your household income and see if it fits for your family.
We should also mention here's a disclaimer for that, because a lot of the stores are making you spend all of your check there to get that 10%.
So yeah, that's exactly
correct.
If
you need a refrigerator or washer and dryer set, then probably, if you're getting $1,200 back, then it's feasible.
Let's talk about the amount, Audrey, too. Single people versus married couples, and they're saying up to $600 per single person, up to $1,200. So what can most of us expect to see?
Well, if you make under $75,000 a year or a couple under $150,000, you are going to get $600 for an individual and $1,200 for married couples, and children get $300. So it could be quite a bit of money for a family. Now, keep in mind they started as of yesterday if you have direct deposit, so you'll be receiving it. But a lot of people, as Keith had said, with the snail mail will probably get it next week. So the money has started, and it started a week earlier, and the reason for that is the government really wants to get out there in our faces and allow us to have the money. The checks are being distributed either through the Social Security numbers or, as we had said, direct deposit, and I think they're depositing 800,000 checks every single day until that actually gets completed. So that's good news for all of us.
My gosh, I think you confused the government with being efficient.
Well, the government is hoping that we'll all go on a big spending spree, and that's exactly what we want to do. So that way, you can get a large amount of money. The problem is, as we all know, is gas prices are extremely high, and food prices are very high. And so it's really just to make ends meet for a lot of Americans who are really suffering.
I've heard a lot of people and a lot of reports and read a lot about this, that folks are saying they're going to pay down their credit card bills or pay them off totally. There's a double-edged sword here, because those who do free up all that credit on their credit card, they're just going to go out and spend it again next month.
Well, that's exactly true, Keith, but they'll be saving on the interest payments as well. So that's a good thing. So with half of the people saving their money or paying off their credit cards, I think that's probably the way most Americans are going to go, and it's good advice for them. You don't want to spend money. To a lot of people, it's like free money. I've got this, I've got to spend it. People are going on mini vacations and doing a lot of fun things. That's a good thing as long as your family can afford that.
Audrey, we only have probably 5 or 10 seconds for this question, but the government talking about doing this in the fall again. What's your thought on that?
They probably won't be doing it, but we were hoping to get a little bit more money, but I think this is probably it for quite a while.
This is probably it, so save it. That's my advice.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Audrey Gusky with us every Tuesday, and we want to remind you can go to kdka.com, track your check, and find out when you'll be getting that.
What mom wouldn't want to, Harley?
I don't know. My mom wouldn't. 85% of us are going to be celebrating with our moms this year, looking for that perfect gift, and although she always says it's the thought that counts, You always want to get her a nice gift, too. Here's Consumer Tuesday. We have Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University talking about some suggestions and a way to make mom happy this Sunday. Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning, Sunny. And Keith, I don't want a Harley, so.
No. You don't want a Harley, and you're a mom. There you go. So suggestions here. We know a lot of people are pinching pennies. This is kind of the theme over the past few months, the economy. So what do you suggest?
Well, people have to be practical this year, unfortunately, and moms always do say it's the thought that counts, but we still want to remember our moms. And it's very interesting because it's a big holiday and we're hoping it's an economic boost for the region and for the country. But people are going to spend, for the first year ever, less on moms, $138 instead of $139. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a downturn. So what we want to do is be very practical and get mom something that she can use and something perhaps that she would not buy herself.
138 for Mother's Day, is that a lot? I don't know. Is that?
Well, it seems like a lot, but keep in mind, Keith, you're not just buying for your mom, you're buying for other people as well.
And, well, who else gets gifts then?
Okay, well, let's look at first of all, what we buy. We are buying greeting cards. Greeting cards is, it's the third biggest holiday behind Christmas and Valentine's Day, if you can believe it. So about 84% of us are going to do that. You look at flowers. It is the second biggest holiday season for florists. That surprised me because it was just behind Christmas, even ahead of Valentine's Day. It's the biggest restaurant day of the year, so more than half of us are going to be going out to brunch or to dinner with our moms. Gift certificates are always big. Jewelry, 30% of us spending in that, and it follows books, housewares, personal spa types of things, and electronics. So you can see there's a wide variety of different items, but in particular, we tend to get the cards and the flowers for our moms. That seems to be the traditional things.
Yeah. I got to make a footnote here, Dr. Gusky. The restaurant, that graphic that we had, the restaurant and how full they are, busy day for them. Nobody cooks for mom. Mom's doing all the cooking, but nobody cooks for her.
They'd rather shell out the cash. Eliminate the work, right?
That's exactly true. Well, the restaurants are happy that no one's cooking that day, so yeah.
And Audrey, this has been a mistake, I'm sure, for more than just me out there. You buy a houseware or something mom can use in the kitchen or to clean. Not exactly.
Is that bad?
Is that bad? I mean,
well, Sonny, it depends on your mom. If she loves to cook and if she really likes to be in the kitchen or is a home person, absolutely that would be perfect for her. If she detests being in the kitchen and cooking and doing house types of things, that wouldn't work. So you have to think of the personality of your mom and what she would like. Something that she would not buy. Try to pamper her. She deserves this. She's been working for you all these years and she's done so much for you. And this is the one day finally we tend to try to honor our moms.
Okay, let's do some history if we can. Tell us about the origin.
Well, it's very interesting because this Mother's Day is going to be the 100th anniversary, and there's a woman named Anna Jarvis from West Virginia,
Morgantown,
who decided that it was about time that we started to honor our moms. 6 years later, they actually made it a national holiday, and Anna Jarvis was never a mother, even though her mother had 12 children, and so 100 years. Is quite a long time, and it's a nice remembrance. And then, of course, Father's Day followed a few years later after that.
Any tips, Dr. Gusky, on how to save? We always talk about bargains, ways to stretch the buck. Any advice in that arena?
Well, we want to be very careful this year because, as we know, with the high gas prices, high food prices, we have to be very cautious. So, you really want to look for the bargains. There are sales out there. I would say go out there early, even though you only have a couple of days at this point, but look around for some particular sales. And what we found this year is people are buying one big item for mom. A lot of times we would buy many little things or a big thing and several smaller things, but it seems like this year we're sticking to one big item and then the gift card as well.
And isn't it true in almost any daily or weekly publication, especially this week, you're going to find coupons for a myriad of stores out there?
Oh, absolutely, Keith. And what you want to do is definitely take advantage of it. There's lots of coupons. Retailers have been hurting, as we've been talking about, for months. And so what you want to do as much as you can is take advantage of the sales, the discounts, the coupons. And keep in mind, a large number of the people shopping this weekend will be men, the sons or the spouses of all of these moms. And so guys tend to wait till the last minute. So men, be very careful. Go out there, get the coupons, look for the bargains and sales because they are out there and you can take advantage of that.
All right, Dr. Audrey Gusky, thank you for the advice on what to buy mom for Mother's Day. Get out there early is the advice always.
I'll do it on Saturday like everybody, like all the other guys. Malls are always packed the day before. All right, Dr. Gusky, thanks very much.
Thanks,
of course, you can catch Dr. Gusky every Tuesday right here on Pittsburgh CW. Get ready here. Most major airlines have either changed their baggage policies altogether or are changing them this week. Most are charging for a second bag, and of course, this is the big concern for the summer travelers. Here with us to talk about more of this is the baggage policies and how you can travel light, Travel Right is Dr. Audrey Guskey from Duquesne University for Consumer Tuesday. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Keith. Hi, Sunny.
All right, the policies of the major carriers here out of Pittsburgh, what are they?
Well, they've pretty much changed. As we had said either last week or this week, they are changing. And so you've got American Airlines, who has changed as of yesterday. Continental Airlines is now charging $25 for another bag. JetBlue is charging $20. The only one that's allowing us to take a second bag for free is Southwest. You also have United Airlines, who last week, and U.S. Airways last week started charging $25. So that may not sound like a lot, but is significant because you figure it's $25 each way. So that could be up to $50 extra you're paying in addition to the high airfare that we're already being charged.
And Audrey, I'm sure they're blaming this on the gas prices as well.
Yeah, it absolutely relates to the gas prices. And, you know, a lot of the summer travelers are going to really start thinking, maybe we will actually drive this year, even though gas prices are very high. But if you're going to pay all that extra money for your family to travel, it's a very, very tough decision. And this may be the one that sets people over the end and says, hey, listen, we're going to drive this year.
All right, so we need some tips here. What can we do to cut down on packing or travel light, as we like to say?
Well, you really have to be careful, and you have to be very, very wise traveler. First of all, obviously check what the hotel is going to give you. If they're going to give you beach towels, hair dryers, and toiletries, it may not be your favorite shampoo, and the beach towel may not match your bathing suit, but definitely take advantage of that. You also want to bring a lightweight duffel bag, so that way that could be a carry-on perhaps for you if you have some additional heavy things that you've purchased or you want to put and carry on with you. If you're buying a lot of souvenirs for yourself or your family, you might want to think about shipping it. In the long run, it's going to be much cheaper and obviously save you the hassle of having to take it on the plane and actually put it underneath the plane. You might want to pack a change of clothes. That also shifts the weight and the amount of clothing from what you're putting underneath the plane to what you're carrying on. That may help you a bit. And also, you want to be very smart as a traveler. You want to make sure the things that you're buying are, in a sense, you can double dip with them, that they're flexible, that they coordinate with each other, and that way you're not taking 10 pairs of shoes. So ladies, you have to be very careful, and you may not be as fashion conscious as you're traveling, but you have to be careful because it is a lot of money to spend for an extra bag of luggage.
That is unfortunate, truly.
Flip-flops, they go with everything.
Hey, Audrey, quickly too, we were talking in recent weeks about the change in security at many airports, as well as far as the lines where they have dedicated to different types of travelers. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that and anything else we need to know that's changed as far as air travel is concerned?
Well, for people who don't travel a lot, obviously need to know liquids is a big thing when you're checking or when you're carrying on. They have the different lines now for the more frequent travelers and people who can get in and get out very quickly. People who have families, young children, or don't travel a lot or have a lot of things that they need to have trouble with as they're carrying it on, you're going to go into the slower lane. That may help you a little bit as you're waiting in line to get to your gate. Basically, my advice to travelers is go online, read what the policies are for the airlines, and really be wise. The less you have, as Keith had said over and over, travel light, travel right. The less you have, the better off you are going to be because it's less hassle carrying things. It's economically more feasible as you're traveling. And overall, it just makes life a lot easier for you. So travel light, travel right.
Will do. Dr. Guskey, thank you very much. Remember, Dr. Audrey Guskey is with us every...
Right, the Pens are hot, the Flyers are not. One last little dig there. All the excitement among fans has generated a spending spree that is really fueling our local economy.
And it is Tuesday, so here to talk about us what the Pens victories mean for the city is Dr. Audrey Guskey with Consumer Tuesday. You're decked out, aren't you? I heard the talk.
We heard.
The talk in the studio is on.
There you go. And I am decked out, and I have my towel, so I'm all ready to go. It is exciting. The Pens are hot, and what's even hotter are sales, which is fabulous for the Pittsburgh area. Of course, May sales are typically very slow, but we've got people pumping the economy regarding the wins from, and gearing towards the Stanley Cup, so it's absolutely fabulous.
Your case in point here, I mean, you're wearing the definition of our growing economy, at least locally, right?
Absolutely, and I'm not the only one. Obviously, everyone is going to be sporting the different Penguins paraphernalia. And that's a fabulous thing for us because, the economy has been very tight. And so here's an opportunity for Pittsburghers to be proud of their city, proud of their Penguins, and as a result, spending money. So who's capitalizing on this? Obviously, sporting goods stores are, as well as hotels, restaurants, and bars when the Pens are playing. But also, you've got supermarkets, you've got florists, you've got bakeries, anyone who could really, in a sense, take advantage of the Penguins and the black and gold. So that's absolutely fabulous. And fun for all of us here in the Pittsburgh area.
And it's not just these national retail chains that are benefiting from it, Dr. Audrey, right? Because I mean, a lot of these mom and pop stores, and we have a ton of local sporting goods stores, locally owned ones around Pittsburgh, that they could benefit from this.
Oh, exactly, Jim. That's exactly right. Dick's Sporting Goods, who is the biggest national sporting goods organization, is based in Pittsburgh, and their sales are flying off the wall. And one of the cool things is when the Penguins themselves started the whiteout, what happened? We had to turn all of our black jerseys and in addition buy a white one. And also online sales are phenomenal. The NFL online sales, they found that the Penguins have by far the biggest fan base. Our sales increased over 150% as of last year, and the 5 biggest selling merchandise are related to Sidney Crosby. Malcolm's coming in very close within the top 10 as well. So you've got huge sales and huge energy. And this is not just increasing retail sales, but also our image. Keep in mind what happened when the Steelers won. Well, you know, you get this national visibility, something that in a sense is priceless, and so we're going to be getting that throughout all the different places. And the beautiful part of the Penguins playing is that most of the games are played, or at least half of them, are played in the Pittsburgh area. Unlike when the Steelers went to the Super Bowl. And there's more games than just one for a Super Bowl.
Right.
And so what we've got is a lot of money being pumped in over what we've got like a week and a half, 2 weeks before the final game and the Pens bring it home.
Well, it's amazing to hear you say that. Everybody hears about the Steelers Nation, and then it's just all across the country, and you think of all those folks who are buying that merchandise. It's hard to believe the Pens are actually surpassing them.
Exactly.
So let's talk about this real quickly. We got at least, we got 4 games. Hopefully we've got 6 or 7 games here. What is our economy going to see when, you know, the Flyers come to, or the Detroit Red Wings come to town?
Well, we're looking at about $30 million being pumped into the Pittsburgh economy, and that's over all of the playoff games, which is huge. And for the city of Pittsburgh, you've got about $50,000 to $75,000 in, or $75,000 to $100,000 of tax money being pumped into the city of Pittsburgh. So that's a tremendous amount of money. And in reality, you can't really put a price on this because a lot of the other retailers are increasing their sales and increasing their motivation as a result of the Pens winning. So my final words are, go Pens.
Absolutely. And before, just something to think about there, it's just amazing to think about what a young image Pittsburgh's putting out there with Malkin and Crosby at the front line.
And Jim, you bring up another good point too, this notion that it's young fans now.
Yep.
Steelers are a little bit older, but we
out there, so compare Pittsburgh's scenario to the rest of the country.
Sunny, it's a really important thing to look at in May because, as we know, a lot of the college and high school students are graduating, and a lot of these students are looking for summer employment. I have a personal vested interest in the job market because my daughter Yvonne just graduated from Duquesne, and fortunately she has a job with Comcast Spotlight, which is great. A lot of recent grads do not. The good news for people overall is that the number of jobs increased by almost 8,000 jobs from last year. That's tremendous, and that's pretty much on national average. It's not a huge leap, it's about 0.7% increase, and the national average is about that. So finally, we're at least holding our own in the job market. In the past couple years, it's been very bleak. This is good news. We're finally over the hump and moving more into the positive area.
Well, a lot of kids are jumping out of high school into summer jobs, and a lot of the students who are home from college are coming back home to the Pittsburgh area looking for summer jobs. What's available out there for them, or are there less this year than last?
There are less than last year, Keith. When you look at it, you've got 1.5 million nationally, high school and college kids looking for summer employment. And what's interesting, it's such a different market now because you've got a lot of high school and college students not interested in a traditional summer job, babysitting, working at a golf course, flipping burgers, folding shirts in a retail store, as a lot of us started out. What we're finding is they're looking for more job-oriented, more career-focused. They're taking summer classes, they're preparing themselves for college and their future. And as a result, a lot of these students aren't really looking for specific jobs. The good news is for the other students who are looking for summer employment, there are jobs out there. But my advice is start early because the economy is very tough.
And Dr. Gusky, let's talk about that first post-college graduation job. You have a lot of universities that attract a global population, but many of them saying, you know, Pittsburgh just doesn't have the jobs. You said there was the increase there, but what about the more tech-savvy fields? Has Pittsburgh caught up in that regard as far as offering those jobs for those recent graduates?
Yeah, Sunny, and in fact, they've not only caught up but gone ahead. As we all know, Pittsburgh has gone from a manufacturing city to more of a service-oriented. So healthcare and education is strong. There's about 5,000 new jobs in healthcare and education. That's
by far the strongest and the most growing field. We also have a lot of job opportunities, about 3,700 jobs for people who are in more of a service industry. So maybe it's call centers or professional types of services or temporary agencies hiring people. So there's a lot of opportunities there. So the more technical, the more computer-oriented, the more business-oriented, we are by far significantly stronger than even the national average. So that's very good news. Construction is holding its own as well. We've got government jobs that have decreased significantly.
You just mentioned quite a few fields there. For the graduate, is that who are embarking on a career, are those the ones that are available? Those the types of jobs before they actually get into their field that they would like to be in expertise?
Exactly. Good question, Keith. Some are and some aren't. A lot of these jobs that are available are for more higher level people. When it comes to a first job, an entry level position in the Pittsburgh area, it is still tough, but it's tough pretty much for any college grads because you don't have a lot of experience and you don't have a lot of educational background, graduate programs that you've gone through. And so it could be tough. In particular, business accounting is very strong. You've got information technology very, very strong in the Pittsburgh area. And so my advice to students is a lot of times the first job may not be the one you're going to stick with all of your life, of course, but get your foot in the door, get in there and, you know, give it a year or two, and that way you can advance yourself, and that's basically the way you want to do it. Pittsburgh market, it's tough, but once again, nationally, it's tough too, and you just have to be a go-getter. Hopefully, while you've been in college, you've put a lot of effort in as far as extracurricular types of events, internships. That's my advice always. Get out there, get as much experience as you can in high school and college, and that'll give you the edge over everyone else.
Yeah, sure does. Internships, very important. Dr. Audrey Gusky, thank you very much for your perspective on this, and she's with
going out to restaurants, bars, spending money there, hotels, people coming into the area.
Going up to the arena.
Absolutely so, and which is a beautiful thing. And now that they have the white out, everyone, in addition to needing your black shirts, you need your white shirts.
Yep.
And so that's in a sense doubled sales. So you've got about $30 million being pumped into the local economy.
That's just incredible.
It is incredible. It's great.
No wonder sports is such big business.
Absolutely. And we need it this time of year because Christmas was very weak. As we know, Valentine's Day sales weren't that strong. Mother's Day held its own. But we needed a shot in the arm, literally, and we're getting it from the Pens.
Not to get off the subject, but why do you think Christmas was weak? Why was Valentine's Day off?
The whole economy has been really weak for the past couple of years. And so people aren't spending, they're being more conservative. And as a result, retail sales, the economy is driven by consumer spending, and it hasn't been that strong. So that's a bad story, but for the Pittsburgh area and the Pens being the playoffs, we'll take that $30 million being dumped into our economy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, one of the ways it's getting dumped in is look at these posters here. I love this big.
Just stick them on the wall, yeah.
Fathead, what's it called? The real big fathead posters. Those things are. I look how realistic they are. I mean, it looks like Sydney's right here in the room.
Yeah, they're life size. They're a little bit under $100. You can get them online. And what we found is online sales, about half of them are not from the Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania area. And you've got New York, Ohio, New Jersey, and even California, where a significant amount of our sales. So we have.
So those are fans that live in other states?
Exactly. So we've got the Steeler Nation now. We're starting to get the Pens Nation as well, which is a fun thing. But, you know, once again, the sales, the difference between a Super Bowl versus the Penguins playoffs is they're in the city. So you've got a lot of money coming here into the area. You know, when you're playing the Super Bowl outside of the area, you're not having the restaurants and the bars. And according to a lot of the restaurant owners and hotels, it's up 35 to 40% increase in sales.
That's amazing.
On game day. So it is tremendously amazing. And it's a good time of the year because May tends to be a slow month for
that
sales.
was my next question. Like, how is this different than, you know, football or baseball?
Yeah, it's that notion that the Penguins have played at least half of their playoff games here in the local area, which has pumped a lot of money. And we have more playoff games. Super Bowl is just one game. The All-Star game that we had here in Pittsburgh a little while ago was only one game as well.
So. Yeah, and it's so smart, I think, of the Pens to open up the arena, to put the big screen on the outside of the arena for games when the Pens are in town and when they're away, to let them inside to use the Jumbotron.
And one thing that's exciting is the Penguins are the #1 seller as far as all merchandising goes. Sales are up by about 160% over last year. And Sidney Crosby has the top 3 as far as the top 5 selling things in the country. So it's huge. So not only is it bringing money into the economy, but it's also highlighting us in a very, very positive
And that was
light.
my next question.
No.
National image. What does something like this do for Pittsburgh?
It's like priceless, just like they say on the Visa commercials. You can't buy this type of publicity because it's claiming we're a winner, we're a city that's on the go, on the move, things are great, things are looking up, we're a sports town, and it's absolutely incredible. But what's funny is if you actually look at some of the merchandise that they have, in addition to poster types of things and t-shirts you would expect, my little grandson Jake, I had to buy him a baby pacifier with the pens and a little baby hockey stick and puck, of course padded, and a little bib. So, I mean, it's expanded. I'm sure they have pet items as well. So you're decorating your home, you're decorating yourselves, you're celebrating, you're having parties, you're going out spending extra money. And so that's all positive.
And it's a domino effect. So if you go out and buy a souvenir, you're going to go to a restaurant, you may end up at a mall or downtown or shopping. So you keep spending and you keep spending. So it's great.
One of the things we need to be aware of is when the Pens win the Stanley Cup, all of a sudden those t-shirts are going to be out there for sale, the Stanley Cup champs. And so that's an interesting phenomenon in and of itself because it's a gamble as to which team is going to win. And my understanding is they can print about 1,000 shirts an hour. And within 72 hours, that's when everybody who has to buy your shirts because you want to wear them to work the next day and show all your friends. And so it's a gamble. They're taking a chance on it. But we all know in Pittsburgh that we have a winner coming.
You got it. Dr. Audrey Gusky, thanks so much.
Good seeing you.
And I'm still, at the moment, trying to compose myself and recover from the statement that you just made that you're a grandmother. What?
Well, he's just a little thing. He's only 11 months and 4 days old.
What? How are you? That's another discussion.
John, I was 5 when I had my son. And they were young.
There we go. I knew there was a secret to it. Audrey, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Gas prices are the big talk around town. Everyone is definitely feeling the pinch.
There are some ways, though, that you can save money and stretch those gallons in your tank. Here are some gas tips this morning. Is Dr. Audrey Gusky for Consumer Tuesday. Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning, Christine. Hi, Sunny.
All right, so where do we start? What do you do?
Well, we all know the traditional things that you want to do. First of all, you want to use as less gas as you possibly can. So how can you do that physically with your car? Well, a couple things you want to do is you want to slow down. These are healthy things for your own safety as well. You want to check the pressure in your tire. You want to make sure your air filter is clean and changed frequently. You want to lose the junk in the trunk. The more you are driving with, obviously the more weight it is going to be and the slower your car is going to be, and as a result it's going to take more gas. A big debate: turn off the air conditioning. Now, that really depends on where you're driving, but if you're locally in town, you're sitting in traffic, you want to use as less air conditioning as possible. If you're on a major highway, you may be able to put the AC on because there's going to be less drag on the car. You also don't want to idle, so you want to ignore as much traffic as you possibly can. So those are some traditional, typical, common sense things that we're attempting to do in order to use less gas.
And everyone wants to save because it is unbelievable. I guess today we're expecting it probably to hit $4 today for average.
Which is shocking because what's happened is if you look at the price last year, you're at about 77 cents more per gallon. So what does that mean to the average household? It suggests that we're paying about $750 more for gas alone, which is a huge chunk of change for most families who have 2 cars, and that's just an average car. If you have a gas guzzling car, you drive a little bit more than average, you may be spending up to $1,000 or even $1,500 more since last year for just getting back and forth. So that tends to obviously be a significant amount of money.
Dr. Gusky, quick question for you. There is obviously a fuel perk program in place, actually a couple locally. Is there a question between the quality of gas at that kind of a station or that station, or those stations I should say, versus your normal oil and gas companies?
Yeah, Sunny, I don't think you have to worry about necessarily the quality of the gas. My concern when you're going to a lot of these gas programs and you're getting savings through your groceries or something like that, you have to be very careful because a lot of times you're paying more for the groceries. And so you're saving a bit on gas, but in the long run, it's sort of coming out, it's balancing. So I would always say shop as cheaply as you can for food, and then even if you're paying full price for gas and not using some of these gas saving programs, that's probably in the long run better off for you. But there's other ways you can save money. We're attempting to, a lot of companies have come up with gas saving gadgets. Well, you want to stay away from those because the EPA has checked out most of those and those don't work. Unfortunately, in today's society, you want to be careful. So you don't want people siphoning your gas, and so you want to make sure you buy a lock for your gas cap. Use cruise control whenever you can because, believe it or not, that makes the car more efficient. Gas additives don't work, and people are always saying, do I need to pay that extra money for the premium fuel? It depends. Take out your manual, and if it says you don't necessarily need it, or talk to your mechanic, chances are you can get away with using regular gas. That could save you 20, 25, 30 cents a gallon. that could be huge savings.
Well, and there are a lot of people out there trying to take advantage of everyone looking for deals on gas or how to save money. So you're right, you got to be careful with all those offers. A lot of them are scams.
Absolutely, yeah, because we're so desperate and we're attempting to really save in any way we can. And so there's a significant amount of scams, whether it's saving gas through different discounts or different gadgets and things that you have. So you have to really be careful. But there are some good things such as credit cards. The Discover Gas card saves you 5% rebate. So that could be very worthwhile. So there are a lot of ways to do that. Coupons, some different stores will give you free car washes with your fill up. So you want to look around because there are deals out there, but just make sure they're legitimate deals with legitimate dealers.
All right, Dr. Audrey Gusky from Duquesne University, thank you for those gas-saving tips. And don't forget, she is with us every Tuesday here on the Pittsburgh CW with the latest in consumer news. Quick note, too, on KDK.
So the Penguins' gas prices are the big talk around town. Everyone's starting to feel the pinch. But there are some ways you can save money and stretch those gallons in your tank. Here with some gas-saving tips this morning is Dr. Audrey Gusky of Duquesne University. Good morning.
Good morning, Christine.
All right, we're all desperate. It just gets worse and worse every day.
It is, ouch. I mean, who would have thought $4 a gallon? And we're actually there.
Well, and most people never even thought twice about filling up their tank. And now every time you have to.
And the problem with our society is we've become so accustomed just getting in the car and going and never giving it a second thought.
Right.
Where now all of a sudden we're almost back into the 60s mentality, one family cars and, you know, doing carpooling and driving the kids with the neighbors. And that's really where we have to be.
Maybe a good circle.
It's a good thing because it's good for the environment overall. It's good for our pocketbooks. And that's the way it has to be.
And some of the driving tips for saving gas are also safe driving tips.
Absolutely. Drive slower. Don't sit in traffic if you possibly can't. Of course, you want to maintain the car, so you want to make sure that the tire pressure is fine and the air filter has been changed. Lose all that junk in the trunk. We tend to travel with, you name it, it's there because we need to have all of that stuff.
Used to be like an extra storage space for me.
So you don't want to put those golf clubs in there. And I used to drive around with kitty litter in the back because in the wintertime you wanted to make sure that, you know, you had it in case you needed and put the weight. It's summertime, so lose that. And there's a big debate with the air conditioning. Should you turn it on or turn it off? And basically what they're saying is turn it off if you're driving locally and if you are basically not traveling very quickly. But
like if you're in city streets and that kind of thing.
Exactly. But if you're on a major highway, it will have a drag on it and will slow you down a little bit. So you can use the air conditioning, but only fast speeds on major highways.
And the problem is when you open the windows, the drag is takes away the whole effect of saving gas for air.
And you want to, as I said, don't sit in traffic, don't idle, and don't get lost. You know, use a GPS so that way you're not driving aimlessly around. And you really want to plan, and that's good advice for anybody at any time. So do multitasking, do several things all at one time. Always have your errands in the car. You have dry cleaning, have it in there if you're driving by. Do you know how many, on average, shopping trips an average family household has a year?
How many?
500.
Whoa.
500.
Well,
so if you can do that on the way, well, some of us we're a little bit above average. But what you want to do is, like on your way home, do the grocery shopping. Don't make a special trip out.
So try and do it all in one.
Exactly. Or shop online and have the stuff delivered to you. Even better.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I'm all for online shopping. All right. Now you also say I know there are a lot of scams out there. I've seen these things. They try and tell you, okay, do this, it'll save you gas, but those don't always work.
Chances are most of them don't work because if they were going to work, a car manufacturer or a petroleum company would actually be implementing it.
Good point.
So what you definitely want to do is you don't want to buy any of these gas saving devices. You don't want to use any kind of gadget because chances are they're not going to work, otherwise it would have been installed in the car. Unfortunately, the way society is now, people are stealing gas, so you want to make sure you have a lock on your gas.
Where do you even get one of those? I don't even know what that is. Like
any
an
kind of
automotive
store? Store can install it for you very easily, or you can install it yourself. Use cruise control, and once again, that's a questionable thing, but if you are driving a very hilly place, you want to maybe not use the cruise control. But if you're driving any length of time, cruise control helps you because it regulates the car and has using it most efficiently.
And I know it helps you from speeding too, which is another one of those things.
The additives don't work. If they work, they would have put them in already. And this is an interesting one. All of us buy the premium because we want our cars to drive more efficiently and not have to take it into the shop all the time. But if you read the manual, the majority of cars do not need premium. And so you can save 20, 30, maybe even 40 cents a gallon.
Oh yeah, so look at your manual to find out if you're okay with just the regular.
Or talk to your mechanic and see what they say.
And you heard that people are running out of gas because they're hoping, I guess, to get the best savings?
Exactly. I heard on KDK radio this morning that AAA has the largest number of people who are running out of gas because they're not filling up. And once again, some of the gas myths They claim that if you fill up the tank, that's not good, so you should only fill it halfway. You should fill in the morning because it breathes and it allows you to get a little bit more gas. When you're parking, park on a slope going downhill so you don't.
Are those all
trip
true
any-
or myths?
Well, most of them are myths. I mean, what are you going to save an ounce of gas? I mean, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Park in the shade because, that way your gas isn't evaporating. Once again, let's have a little common sense
Desperate
here.
times.
Yeah,
call for
desperate times, desperate
measures.
measures.
Thanks, Dr. Audrey Gusky,
Sure,
Duquesne
Christine.
University.
Are going to be staying with family members. So people want to stay close to home. They don't have the money. They don't want to have very expensive, extravagant vacations. So we figured, let's talk about today different places you can go to that are literally within the city or within an hour or so drive. So, it's surprising that a lot of Pittsburghers say, well, I've never been to the zoo or I've never been to Mount Washington. So now's the time to actually do it, take advantage of it, and also boost the local economy. So there's a top 10 list as far as must-sees in the Pittsburgh area. And I think every Pittsburgher should go through it and make sure they've gone to most, if not all of these. First one is Mount Washington, of course, and the inclines. And you don't necessarily have to go to one of the restaurants, but that's an option for you. And it's beautiful up there, and especially a nice summer evening would be fun to take the family and get some great pictures. The Senator John Heinz History Center is also fabulous, and they're always updating it. So even if you've been there, you should go again. The aviary, the National Aviary. I don't think Pittsburghers realize that this is the spot in the country to go and take a peek at birds. And not only do you look at them, they fly around you. And as a result, it's very, very interactive, and families and kids absolutely love it. Strip District, especially on a Saturday morning, is fun. Eating on the street, going into the little stores that they have a cup of coffee and a biscotti is the best way to spend a Saturday morning. And the Andy Warhol Museum. I think we get spoiled by the fact that Andy Warhol was a Pittsburgher, and as a result, we have some of his wonderful, wonderful pieces of artwork, and it's really a must for everyone to go there.
No doubt about it. And you also have Phipps. I think anybody who looks at this list can safely say, even if you are a Pittsburgher who tries to take advantage of everything this city, this region has to offer, there's something on this list that you probably haven't done.
Good point, Keith. And you've got museums, as we're seeing, Phipps Conservatory, the Science Museum is great. Once again, very interactive for families. The only one I haven't been to, and I'm embarrassed to say, is the Mattress Factory. And the Nationality Rooms is so great. Even if you've done it before, you should definitely go back and do it.
And Dr. Gusky, we're talking about some pretty hot temperatures, some hot weather over the past few and the next couple of days. Let's talk about some warm weather spots, theme parks, that kind of thing too.
Well, at least yesterday, in the past couple of days, it's been very hot. So what you want to do, of course, Kennywood, you've got sand castles. You have Idlewild, which is a great place to take, especially young children. Seven Springs is nice, and Splash Lagoon. So there's a lot of fun places that people can go to. And keep in mind, too, if you want to go a little bit further, Erie has great opportunities with Presque Isle and the wineries and all the different parks that they have there as well. And also a nice place for families to go for a couple of days is the Laurel Highlands.
Said before, there's no room for error when you are doing
No, there's not. And if you complain about your service, then don't tip yourself.
That's right, exactly. Well, the summer weather is here, and retail prices, as you know, are definitely on the rise. So what can a family do to make ends meet? The answer might be in your own backyard.
Perhaps you can't drive through a neighborhood on weekends without passing dozens and dozens of signs promoting those local garage sales. And here with us today to share some garage sale secrets to help you save some money is Dr. Audrey Gusky with Consumer Tuesday. Good morning.
Hi, Keith. Hi, Sunny.
All right. We call them the garage sale gang. You see them come through. It's the same people every weekend, it seems. How popular are these deals?
They are extremely popular for several reasons. First of all, the economy is so tough. People are looking for all kinds of ways to make ends meet. They're fun. It's like a scavenger hunt. You've got 60 million people a year hitting garage sales. And I have to confess, I am a garage sale junkie. I have furnished my house, lots of stuff outside, decorating, clothes for my kids when they were younger, and toys. You can't beat the prices, obviously, because it's a fraction of what you would pay. So garage sales are, especially this time of year, really, really hot.
So how do you find the best of what's out there, Dr. Gusky? Because there sure are a lot of things, and I'm sure you could waste your time if you're not showing up at the right spots.
That's exactly right, Sunny. You really have to have a game plan. You really have to be careful and set up what you're going to be doing. First of all, scout out the sales. Places like the Penny Saver and signs around the neighborhood and different newspapers. As I said, have that game plan. Pick the sale that sounds like the best to you, the one that's going to have the best things for your particular situation. Go to that and then plan around there. Use GPSs in order to find the different sales as quickly and efficiently. You want to do that a day or two ahead of time. Look for keywords and ads. If you have a baby, if you have pets, if you're looking for outdoor furniture, if you're looking for antiques, that's the way to go because that will be listed in the ads. Be an early bird. Get there early because it's a one of a kind. If you miss it, you're not going to get it back. However, the reverse is be there late, because that's where you're going to get a lot of the bargains and perhaps even get things free. Take small change, small bills and change. It will help you as well.
Very good. Inevitably, you go to somebody's house, a friend's house, and you see an item that you really like there, and oh, I got that at a garage sale.
And you know, it used to be a stigma, Keith, where people would be sort of ashamed or embarrassed. Now it's something to brag about, because you can say, as you said, oh, I got it at a garage sale. I paid $4 for it, and retail would be $40.
In that vein, is there things that we should avoid? Are there things we should avoid?
Well, there are things. You, of course, have to be careful of kids' toys nowadays, because, you know, you have to make sure they may have been recalled. When you're at an actual garage sale, you want to move quickly, because there's a lot of other sales to go to. Grab it. And I hate to say that in a mean way, but you want to take it as quickly as you can, because if you keep it there and someone else sees it, then it will kill you. You want to check it out, plug it in if you have to, make sure it's working. Don't ever pay sticker price. This is when we haggle. This is the way to do it. And so you want to bargain as much as you can. And be nice. Say hello, compliment them on things. Be a nice guy, and as a result, if you offer them $2 for something they want $1 for, you may actually get the bargain.
And we're running out of time quickly here, but Dr. Gussie wanted to ask you too, on the reverse, it's a good idea to make some extra bucks.
Yeah, and maybe next week that's the segment, because after you've hit the garage sales and spent all your money and stuffed your house with stuff, literally, and junk. One man's junk is another man's treasure. So we'll have advice for how to have a garage sale next week.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Very good. I like that. Just grab it advice. Inciting a riot. Dr. Gussie's with us every Tuesday here on Pittsburgh CW. You can join us for that.